our viewers, and welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight. This show gives us an opportunity to introduce you to 40 of the best dynamic teachers here in St. Lucie County. But the cool part about it is that they represent 2,150 plus of their colleagues that are making St. Lucie Public Schools a bigger, brighter, and better place for our students each and every day. Starting out today, joining us is the wonderful Miss Maki Dubrow, who's the Dynamic Teacher of the Year over at Fort Pierce Westwood High School. Ms. Brown, welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. She's brought along with her the very dynamic Joseph Lazo, who's the proud principal of Fort Pierce Westwood. Mr. Lazo, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Perry, for having me on the set today.
And I think over at Westwood, where the colors are maroon and gray, the Panthers, they say something about once a Panther,
always a Panther.
So we had to get that out
of the way,
as we start the show. Okay, Ms. Brown, it is so exciting for me to have the opportunity to talk to you and introduce you to many of our viewers, because I'm sure there are just a few of them who may not know who the wonderful Miss Maki Dubrow is. Just in case there is, would you please give us a little bit about your background?
Maki Dubrow. I am one of 4 children. My dad was military, so I moved to Florida because my dad retired here. So originally from Louisiana, my country comes out sometimes, so excuse that. I lived in New Jersey and California, and I made my way through IRSC for my degree in education. So been here for about 14 years now.
Thank you, Dad, for moving to St. Lucie Public Schools. She's brought along, as I mentioned, the dynamic Mr. Joseph Lazo. Mr. Lazo, tell us a little bit about your educational background, as well as how you came to be the proud principal at Fort Pierce Westwood High.
Well, my background began as a 5th grade teacher at what was once called Fort Pierce Magnet School of the Arts. Now it's called CAST. I taught 5th grade there for about 4 years. Then I found different opportunities within our district, and I honed in on my skill sets on being the leader that I can be. Then I was tapped on the shoulder to take on the role of leadership, and now I find myself as my 2nd year at Fort Pierce Westwood High School. A little bit about who I am from Haitian descent. My parents came over from Haiti, and we moved from New York here to St. Lucie County Public Schools, and I am a product of St. Lucie Public Schools. When I think about and I start to calculate the years, I can't believe it's year 16 for me already, to the point where now my own children have already gone through the St. Lucie Public School system, and 2 are in college and 1 still in middle school. And I'm excited for the work that's still ahead of me, and I'm here and ready to work.
So you said you were a product of St. Lucie Public Schools, but you did not tell us which school you graduated from, Mr. Lazo.
Yes, Dr. Perry. I graduated from Port St. Lucie High School.
Home of the Jaguars.
Home of the Jaguars, that is correct.
Yes. Now, Ms. Brown, tell us what subject you teach and what does that entail all day long?
So I am the math coach at Fort Pierce Westwood. So I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction for specialized in K through 8, and just finished my master's in ed leadership. I graduated in December. But
congratulations.
Thank you. But as math coach, it's every subject. I'm supporting teachers all day long. I'm co-teaching. I'm pulling kids for intensive tutoring, and I'm even teaching a couple of my own classes too. So I'm kind of doing everything. So that's algebra, geometry, trig, pre-calculus, calculus, whatever you can think of, I've taught it.
So what's your favorite part about being a teacher or teaching?
My favorite part is the students. I know that sounds cliche, but it's listening to student voices and amplifying those voices. You know, a lot of people say they want to be the voice for their students, and I'm one of those people. Is my students have voices, and my job is to listen to them and respond to that. And I've seen students grow so much just by knowing that Ms. Brown heard me, and I responded to what they heard, and then they perform. You know, as you listen to students and you take in what they're saying, they work with you, and they give you a chance, and once they give you the chance, they learn.
Oftentimes, when we think about math, students begin to shun away from that idea of being a math proficient student. So how do you engage students in learning math?
I tell them to give me a chance. But the one thing I do is I tell them that they can do it. A lot of students don't believe they can do it, so the best way I engage them is to scaffold what I'm teaching. I give them those small wins at the beginning and then challenge them. So we don't just stay small where they can do the simple things. We then go into the much harder things, the more challenging things. And once a student can fulfill that challenging thing, they feel like they can do anything. So my goal is to always engage them through challenges, but also meeting them where they're at and then propelling them forward.
So in math, we know that these students that are in school today basically were born with some form of technology in their hands. So how do you employ the use of technology for instruction in math?
Well, good thing is we're a one-to-one school, but in addition,
And what does that mean?
One-to-one means that every single one of our students has a laptop. So I try to engage them through Edpuzzle. So Edpuzzle is a program where you can upload videos, but then you can also add questions to the videos. So as the students are watching the video, it pauses, they answer a question, they know whether they're right or wrong, and they can keep moving through the video. I also use an app called Remind, since most of them have cell phones. So I literally remind them of what work that they need to do, and they can ask me homework questions and I respond to them. So that's how I use technology.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? If not, when did you decide?
I've known. I fell in love with To Serve with Love was one of the first movies. I fell in love
Not
with
To Serve with
To
Love.
Serve with Love, yes. And grew up on Saved by the Bell. I originally started out as a physics major at IURC, but I started tutoring. And once I started tutoring, especially in the math, I realized that was what I loved. I was always good in math in high school, but I didn't think I could, share that with other people. And once I realized that I could, I was like, I want to teach this. And then I noticed that most of the freshmen coming in were struggling, and I was like, maybe I can reach them before they get to college. So high school was that place I felt like I could catch kids and catch them up so they would be ready to enter college at a college-ready level, because many of them weren't.
When you think about your educational journey, is there a teacher or maybe multiple teachers that inspired you to become an educator?
There are multiple. I had a teacher named Mr. Lucky. He was a former athletic director and football coach who taught English rhetoric. And he made our class a community, and we felt like family. So even though we were writing papers, we wrote about real life, and we were able to share, anything with him. So I learned how to build that community from him. And I had a teacher named Mr. Bayuso, Mr. V, we called him. But I was one of those kids, I got my A's, but I sat in the back of the class and never answered questions. And then one day, he called me out. And he said, Makita, you know this. So he put me in a program called Friday Night Lights. But I would literally catch a bus from my high school to elementary schools, and I would tutor students 3 days a week. And so he was the one that really kind of got me out of that box, and I really credit a lot of the way I teach math to him.
Ms. Lazo, you have the wonderful opportunity to see Ms. Brohm in action so that you see the magic as it occurs. If we were to walk into one of her sessions with students and or her colleagues, what is it that we would see, hear, and feel?
One of the things that you definitely will see will be the engagement that is coming from Mrs. Brohm, from the students and her peers as well. She can captivate an audience with her soft, subtle approach. I've actually seen her in action in the classroom teaching lessons in regards in Algebra 1, where she is take on a couple of roles for us, as she said earlier, many hats that she wears at Westwood, where she can walk into the classroom and that's the first thing she says, "Hey guys, on me." And the kids immediately are attentive to her instruction at that time. And you're going to feel a sense of confidence in her classroom because she is exuding that confidence in her students' ability to perform in the product that she wants them to do.
So, Ms. Lazo, to be the Teacher of the Year, we know that person is heavily involved in the total aspect and operations of the school. And you kind of mentioned about Ms. Brohm being everywhere.
Yeah.
So tell us some of those other things besides the classroom that we would see Ms. Brohm taking the lead in or helping out, or just being involved in as a part of helping the school operate.
First of all, I'm not going to take so much time to lay out all of the aspect that she has going on at Westwood, but definitely she is our math co-chair. So she helps facilitate. She goes to the math coaches meetings and she brings back information about going deeper into the standards, going deeper and being aggressive with the instruction with the teachers and showing the teachers how to teach to the full extent of the standards. She also serves as our NEST co-chair with new teachers, a role that helps her develop and work with new teachers, giving them the tips and pointers about being a professional, about how to manage your classroom. Mrs. Brom also was very instrumental as part of being with Operation Graduation. She served as one of our key mentors, and this is why I can stand here and say the success of Westwood is directly contributed to Mrs. Brom's effects on our campus.
Ms. Brom, how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
Like Mr. Lizzo mentioned, we want them to graduate, and not just because we want them with a diploma, but we want our kids to be successful. So the one thing I tell students is I'm invested in them. You know, when we're tutoring, I've tutored for Algebra 1 EOC retakes, the PERT. I tell students, I want you to be successful. And if it takes you getting this diploma to be successful, let's do it. So once they see that I really care about them, they respond to me. Kids who never thought that they were going to graduate, when they sit and they pass that math test that counts as that score, I've had students cry, you know, and parents call me because they never thought that they were going to do it. We have kids who've taken tests 10 times and couldn't pass it. And I was like, okay, let's go. Give me one more shot. You know, I've had a student last year who was going to drop out. And I was like, called his mom, give me one more chance. And we sat there and he passed that test. You know, so I tell the students, I care about them. This is not, we don't just we want our school to look good.
Of course.
But we care about them. We look good when they look good. And once they know that I care, and I'm like, math is it's something we gotta, you know, you got this. We can get through this. I know you think this is challenging, but again, if you give me a chance, and they gave me a chance, and then the kids took a chance on themselves, and they've been successful at that.
As the teacher of the year for Westwood High School, you automatically become the ambassador for education. So what advice do you offer new teachers?
To learn, and to not be afraid to ask questions. Education has changed so much in my 9-year tenure, but it has changed so much, and you cannot do it alone. We cannot, as teachers, live in silos. You have to be connected. So the one thing I urge, especially as I'm doing the NEST meetings this year, is ask questions. If you don't know something, admit you don't know it. I won't judge you, but there are teachers and administrators who are willing to help and support new teachers in every aspect. So my goal is, hey, ask questions, you know?
What advice do you give to parents to help them ensure that their child will be a success?
So for parents, it's to not give up on their students, because sometimes the parents feel like their students have struggled so much and they've lost a little bit of faith and hope. So we renew that hope by showing that, hey, your student has achieved milestones. So before we ever talk about, things that need to happen, it's what have, your student has achieved things. They've come so far. And then the other thing at least I tell parents, is to not project their fears and what they struggle with in school upon their students, especially teaching math. We have a lot of parents who say, I wasn't good at math, so my kid's not going to be good at math. So we're like, no, don't tell them that. You may have struggled, but, let your child, even if they're going to struggle through it, they can struggle through it and become successful. They don't just have to struggle through it and still not be able to do it. I've done home visits as a part of Operation Graduation. So again, telling parents, hey, your child is 95% there. Just work with us through this next 5% to get them over the edge. And when parents see that you're coming out and you're visiting, you're not just at the school, you're not making phone calls and they don't pick up and miss them. We actually go and say, okay, we're here, we care. And then once the parents see that we care, they encourage their students to care also.
Ms. Lizzo, what makes Ms. Brom the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Listen to how she described her passion for what why we do this is for the kids. The why. When we think about that inner circle and why we do the things that we do, Ms. Brown has already demonstrated and shown her purpose and her intelligence with that. It's talk about knocking on the doors, that one extra degree. It's not just the making the phone call, it's action, actionable work. And that's what makes Ms. Brown, in my consideration, to be the Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools.
Every day when we go back into our classroom, there has to be something that drives us. What's your fuel that pushes you, propels you each and every day?
The students. And then the belief that nothing is impossible. That no matter what challenges that we face, because some days teaching is hard, we have to admit that. But knowing that this is something else to conquer. I always look at it as something else to learn. There really is no failure if you learn from what you weren't successful in. So the drive to always be successful and to always be successful for my students, because if I'm successful, they're successful. Then if they're successful, I become successful. So that kind of relationship that we build each other in success, that's what drives me to go to work and school every day.
So let's wrap it up by talking about learning and living. What is it that you know for sure?
I know for sure that life isn't perfect and that we would like it to be. But I also know for sure that you never give up. You always keep working and you always keep trying. It's the small wins that are going to build into the big successes that people see, and it's never stop trying. Even if people don't see you and you're not in the limelight, you keep on working until you build success for yourself.
We want to tell your parents thank you for moving to Florida. We want to also tell Mr. V and Mr. Lucky thank you as well. Ms. Lazo, thank you and congratulations on your wonderful Teacher of the Year. Ms. Brown, congratulations for being selected by your peers as the Teacher of the Year, but also for giving your students that renewed hope. And in doing so, you make St. Lucie Public Schools and their world a bigger, brighter, and better place each day that they're with you. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What this place needs is better graduation rates.
What this place needs is less childhood obesity.
What this place needs is free help with taxes.
What this place needs is healthy breakfast.
What this place needs is fitness programs for kids.
What this place needs is early readers.
What this place needs is mentors for teens.
What this place needs is people to join us. What this place needs is you. To donate or volunteer, go to unitedway.org.
And joining us at this time is wonderful Miss Tracy Lot, who's the dynamic Teacher of the Year over at Francis K. Sweet Elementary School. Miss Lot, welcome to our Spotlight Show.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Great. And she's brought along with her the very proud and dynamic, the wonderful, marvelous Miss Dijon Jackson, who is the outstanding principal over at FK Sweet. Miss Jackson, welcome as well.
Thank you for having us.
Ms. Lot, it is indeed a pleasure to have this opportunity to have this conversation with you, because it gives St. Lucie Public Schools the opportunity to share with all of our wonderful viewers some of the dynamic teaching professionals that are working with students in our district every day. But it also gives us the opportunity to share with them that you only represent 2,100 other dynamic professional educators each and every day. And it gives them a little glimpse into life on a school campus every day. Just in case we have some viewers that don't know who the wonderful Tracy Lot is, would you please tell us a little bit about your background as an educator?
Sure. My name is Tracy Lot. I attended Florida Atlantic University and received my bachelor's degree there in grades first through sixth, and also ESOL endorsed. I am happily married for 26 years, and I have a 13-year-old daughter who attends LPA. She also went to FK Sweet. I did my student teaching at FK Sweet in third grade.
Okay.
And after that student teaching with Mrs. Mayberry, I was hired as a second grade teacher, and now I've been there 17 years as a second grade teacher.
17 years as a second grade teacher. Wow. Wow. Tell us what happens in a second grade classroom.
So much learning, so much talking, so much fun. We greet each other. We build that classroom community. We talk about why things are important, why we're learning what we're learning. We find hands-on ways to learn the hard stuff. I tell them sometimes this is going to be hard, I'm warning you, but you can do it. Just so much exciting stuff happens, and they love to learn, and that's I love second grade because they love to learn. I love to teach them, and we have a really good time.
Ms. Jackson, just in case we have some viewers that don't know who you are, introduce yourself as well and let everyone know how you came to be the proud principal over at FK Sweet.
DeJean Jackson Harris, very proud principal at Francis K. Sweet Magnet School. As a traditional academic magnet school, I was very fortunate to be named there last year in October, and was greeted by very warm, welcomed arms from the educators as well as the community, because Sweet has a proud tradition in this community. And so I have been in education for a very long time, a proud student in St. Lucie County Schools. Actually went to school with Mrs. Lot back at John Carroll back in the day. But I just have been very fortunate to be an educator, a teacher, an administrator for many, many years.
So, Ms. Lot, if I were to walk into your second grade classroom tomorrow, what would be happening?
Typically, a day would be I would instruct students on what we're learning. I would get them excited about the learning. I would maybe preview the lesson with a little bit of maybe a music clip, or we'll do a little dance, like little brain break to get us started. And then after I present information, I try my best to get them into groups to help reinforce that information. They can teach each other. I can walk around. I can see what's going on. Once we do the groups, a lot of times I'll let them ask their questions. We'll take our learning a little bit deeper, and then we'll come back as a whole and we'll discuss where we're going to go next with that information. I'm blessed enough to have a smart board in my classroom, so we use the smart board for our learning a lot. And I also was lucky enough to be the recipient of laptops for each of my students. So a lot of times we'll start that with a music clip. Each student will have their own laptop and be able to take their learning even further with the laptops, which has been an amazing experience.
So in second grade, you know, we understand that every subject happens just about every day. But what's your favorite part of your day?
Reading. Reading is my absolute joy. To this day, I read for pleasure for myself. My favorite time is when I sit down and read to my students and I see the excitement in their faces. And to this day, I mean, they get so excited. And you'll hear them say, oh, this is my favorite part of the day. She's going to read to us. So I really try to read in all subjects, fiction and nonfiction, really trying to expose them to everything I possibly can. And it's just amazing to see their little eyes light up and, you know, bring their personal experiences, learn something new, and bring that together.
We heard you mention earlier the use of a smart board in your classroom, but we know that you purposefully have to plan for engagement and for the use of technology. So tell us how you go about that, or how you utilize engagement and technology for learning.
The smart board I've had for a couple of years, so I've developed some files that I use with a lot of the lessons that I'm teaching. Just last year, I was awarded the laptop, so that's something I'm learning more about and discovering. We use them a lot. We have a bunch of learning games that we do as a whole class where we celebrate each other and we learn off of each other. I'm also taking a class, the technology cohort, trying to learn even more about how I can use them in the classroom. It's been very interesting to see and watch them not only learn how to use the technology, but then to take that learning further, because some of them don't even have computers at home. So it's been a great experience to learn with them and show them how to use the computer to further their learning.
Ms. Jackson, you have the privilege of seeing the magic happen every day in Ms. Lott's second grade classroom. When you visit her classroom, what is it that you see, hear, and feel?
Well, Tracy just mentioned a portion of the things, the excitement that the kids have and that she brings to the classroom. She mentioned also the laptops in the classroom. That was because of the thirst for knowledge to expand that classroom experience beyond those four walls, to open up the rest of the world to her boys and girls. And when that grant was first awarded to FK Sweet, just the excitement and the how can I do this, and that quest for making sure that students are engaged not only in their learning from that 8 to or 8:15 to 3:30, but throughout the day, making sure she's communicating with parents and community and getting community supporters in the classroom. So while that classroom might be the base of where the learning happens, it is a day-to-day, a weekend experience where the kids are excited to learn and the parents are reaching out all the time with Class Dojo, with the technology enhancements, with the reading expressions. Everything that's in the classroom is a hands-on, fruitful experience for the boys and girls.
Ms. Jackson, we know that to be selected the Teacher of the Year at Francis K. Sweet, you must be heavily involved in the day-to-day total operation of the school. You can't just be confined to your classroom. What other things do we see Ms. Lott involved in?
Ms. Lott is involved in everything around the school. She mentioned the technology group. That technology guru group that I call them are always sharing blogs, the latest research in education. Mrs. Lott also not only cares about the kids who are currently in her classroom, but anyone who has stepped in her classroom and moved on to 3rd grade, which we know is such a tough grade level to tackle. She has made sure that that nurturing, that caring spirit, that data-driven, day-to-day is enhanced through those kids who have gone through her classroom or through 2nd grade to be successful in the next grade level. So those experiences and also bringing in new teachers to the fold, making sure they're ready to go, that's all of what makes Tracy such an outstanding educator.
Ms. Lott, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you decide?
I have always known that I wanted to be a teacher. When I first graduated from school, an opportunity presented itself for me to go to school. I had worked for an optometrist, and he really encouraged me to go to school to be an optician. So I made glasses and I made contacts. So that was my first degree that I received. After doing that for a few years, my desire to be a teacher kept coming back and coming back and coming back, and I knew that I had not fulfilled my dream. In fact, I'll never forget when I went home and told my husband that I would be going back to school again to become a teacher, because that was my dream, and he was like, I thought we were finished with school. So I went back to school and followed my dreams and became a teacher.
So when you look back at that decision to follow your dream, would you say that there was a teacher or many or teachers that inspired you to be an educator?
There was not one single teacher that stood out. What I noticed from all of my years of school is the relationships. The relationships when teachers not only taught, but took the time to get to know me, get to know my personality, get to know my learning styles. That stood out to me as that's what I want to do for children as well. I want to be the person who's there not only for their education, but for their mind, for their spirit. I really work on things with them that's going to help them in the future. We work on behaviors, we work on personalities, things that really relationships in the classroom. We are a community. I tell them, this is your family. You're here with your family. We spend more time together in the classroom than some of you do at home with your family. So this is going to be just as important, and this is going to take you further into life.
As we mentioned earlier, you're a 2nd grade teacher. So how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
I definitely think by bringing in the technology that I'm starting to prepare my children to learn what older grades are going to be like, the different types of resources that they can use. We talk about where we're going to go from 2nd grade from day one, so that I put that idea in their head that, you're not stopping here, you're going on and on and on. I think building a foundation of questioning, and if you have difficulty, you question and we find your answer for you. You don't just stop. And we really work on that, because a lot of children, when they get nervous, they just stop. And I really push them, okay, well, if you don't know this, what can you do to try to solve this problem? How can we figure out what can we do next to help you get to the next step? So I really think just by pushing them and making them question what they're doing, I think that really helps them.
As the Teacher of the Year for Francis K. Sweet, you automatically become the ambassador for education there. What conversations, or what would you say to a new teacher?
I believe what I would tell a new teacher is never give up, always keep trying. Take the time to learn what makes your children successful. Take the time to learn what makes relationships in the school successful. Find out as much as you can so that then you can develop your own teaching style and be the biggest asset that you can for the school.
What advice would you give to a parent to help them ensure that their child is a success?
What I try to do with parents is I try to encourage them to be active in their children's learning and make them excited about learning. Make it a fun thing. Don't say, oh, here we go, we have to do your homework again. Don't do that. Pick something to read with them. Find stuff that they're interested in. Make it exciting because, wow, their childhood goes by so fast. Be involved in their learning and make it a positive thing and a relationship then you'll always have with your child.
Ms. Jackson, please describe Ms. Lot for me using 3 adjectives and describe why you chose those 3.
First and foremost, nurturing. Nurturing not just for the kids, but for the families and the relationship. She's a mother, and that shines through, and that parent connection is definitely there. Also, a clear communicator, communication at all levels, whether it's with parents, whether it's with kids. She's seeing what makes them click, and that communication and that clarity helps with understanding what's definitely there. And last but not least, I would definitely say, and this goes along with nurturing, but just loving of the field of education, loving how students tick and learn. Just those are 3 adjectives that definitely describe Tracy. She makes a home of Francis K. Sweet, and we're just so proud of her to be selected as the Teacher of the Year.
Ms. Lot, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
Since day one. Since day one. I mean, I have always loved it. And I'll never forget my very first year of teaching. I was nominated New Teacher of the Year. And there was a photographer who took a picture of me as I was holding each of my children at the last day of school, crying my eyes out because I just couldn't imagine that they were not going to be part of my everyday life. And you can even ask my husband, I go through a little bit of a depression every year because I miss they become part of my life, and it's really hard to let them go each year.
When will you know that you are a success?
I think every day I step into that classroom with a smile on my face and I see those loving children who smile right back at me, that makes me successful. I feel like I give them the tools that they need to go further in life, and I believe that makes me successful.
Ms. Jackson, what makes Ms. Lot the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Ms. Lot is the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year because she is the epitome of what a relationship building, data-driven, day-to-day, I'm going to be that rock that a kid needs every day, and that parent phone call away. She just exemplifies and exudes education every day, every breath that she takes.
Ms. Lot, let's wrap it up with a couple of more questions. First of all, finish this phrase, I believe.
I believe that kindness is one of the most important things in the world that a person can be. And with kindness, anything is possible.
So let's look at living and learning and tell us, what is it that you know for sure?
I know for sure that every child should be loved, and every child that is loved will be successful.
So what the world needs now is some love?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Ms. Jackson, thank you for coming on the Teacher Spotlight. And Ms. Lott, congratulations on your selection by your peers for Teacher of the Year at Francis K. Sweet, a school that's dear to my heart as well. Great to have you and letting us share with our viewers all the wonderful things that's happening in your classroom and at Francis K. Sweet, but most of all, how we all are working together to make St. Lucie Public Schools a bigger, better, and brighter place for students in our district. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm truly honored.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight at this time, Miss Melissa Johnson, the Teacher of the Year for Lakewood Park Elementary School. Welcome to the Spotlight.
Thank you.
And she's brought along with her our wonderful friend, Miss Diane Young, the proud principal at Lakewood Park Elementary School. Miss Young, welcome.
Thank you.
Ladies, it's a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to speak with you about the wonderful things that's happening in your room, Miss Johnson, the wonderful things that's happening at Lakewood Park Elementary, but it also gives us the wonderful chance to introduce to all of our viewing audience some of the teaching staff that represents all of the other wonderful teachers that we have here in St. Lucie Public Schools. So, Ms. Johnson, just in case we have some viewers who don't know who you are, how could that be, right? Please introduce yourself to them and let us know a little bit about your background.
Okay, I'm Melissa Johnson. I teach 3rd grade at Lakewood Park Elementary. I got my associates at Indian River State College. I got my bachelor's in psychology at Berry University. And I'm certified to teach elementary K through 6 and social sciences 5th through 9th.
Great, great. Welcome again to our show and congratulations. Ms. Young, in case there's someone that does not know who the very dynamic Diane Young is, introduce yourself as well, please.
Well, I'm the very proud principal of Lakewood Park Elementary, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Melissa, representing so many teachers in St. Lucie County who are such great educators, and she's definitely an outstanding teacher, and we're very proud to have her as our representative for this year's Teacher of the Year.
We're excited as well because we know the work that you do in your classroom is representative of the work that the 2,100 other professional educators are doing every day. So it gives us a chance to highlight that, to turn the spotlight on what's happening in your room. But you mentioned at the opening that you teach 3rd grade. So if I was to walk into your 3rd grade classroom, what would I see happening?
What would you see? Well, all of my kids get greeted with a hug or a high five or a handshake, whatever they would like. Most of them choose hugs. So our day starts with that, and our day starts with me champing our day and letting them know their expectations because they forget quickly. We begin our day with a morning meeting, the Sanford Harmony Social Emotional Learning. We do a morning meeting every day. The kids buddy up and they get to spend some time with each other, getting some time to kind of share with one another, and they share with me and I get to share with them. We move into reading. We move in from reading into lunchtime after reading. Reading takes up a big portion of our day. Then we have lunch, science, some more reading. But I think what you'll see mostly in my classroom is a lot of kids loving to learn and enjoying what they're doing and happy to be there.
Cool.
I hope that's what you would see if you
Cool,
walked in
cool.
there.
So, 3rd grade can be a challenging grade. We know it's where that accountability thing really kicks in. But what's your favorite part of your day?
Favorite part of my day are my kids. My favorite part of the day really is the kids. It's watching the light bulbs go on. It's seeing them grasp a new concept. It's just getting to share with them and be part of their lives because they're just these beautiful creatures that come in my room, and they're just my favorite part.
Third grade, still relatively young, open to having just information poured into them. So how do you purposefully plan the use of engagement and technology for instruction?
Well, I think in every moment of my day I'm thinking of engagement, because if a kid isn't engaged, they're not learning. And I try to use engagement strategies by thinking of all the learning styles that are in my room. There are some that like to just listen, so I talk plenty.
Yes.
There are those who need to move, so we do a lot of jumping and dancing, and there are those who need to talk, so we do a lot of chanting, a lot of being able to call out, share out, even when they stand up to leave the classroom, they have something they say and something they do and a noise they make just to get out all of that energy and to keep them focused and attentive.
Ms. Young, you have the privilege of walking into Ms. Johnson's classroom every day to watch and see the magic happen. So tell us, when you visit the class, what is it that you see, hear, and or feel?
I see excitement. I see students that are engaged, and not because they have to or because they're just trying to earn a Falcon Buck, but because they're genuinely engaged. So there's a lot of brain-based strategies going on with our students, and even those students who at times struggle and don't find something easy are willing. They're willing learners. They want to please, they want to work hard, they want to work together with their teams. And you mentioned chance, and I have to tell you, I've always been impressed that when the students get ready, if they're going to take an assessment or if they're going to do something together, that they come together as a team. They have a little chant that they do to pep themselves up and to get excited about learning and just moving themselves forward with their own goals. So it's definitely an engaging classroom, just filled with lots of learning.
Ms. Johnson, when did you decide that you wanted to be a teacher, or have you always known?
When I was young, I think probably like a lot of people, I lined up my stuffed animals and my dolls and my Matchbox cars even, and I taught them. And I guess I've always wanted I've always wanted to teach. I took a little stint. I was a club director for the Boys and Girls Club for 16 years, so I guess you could say I was teaching then. But I really, really knew I wanted to teach my first year at Lakewood Park. My first year there, that's when I was like, this is it. Yeah. This is what I was meant to do.
So when you reflect, look back and think about the journey that led you to teaching, is there a teacher or maybe a group of teachers that stick out that you think inspired you to be an educator?
I think all of them. I think the good ones, the not so good ones, I think they all inspire you because they fill you up with what you need to be a better teacher, what you need to learn from, what you want to do just like them. You know, I always saw teachers as magical, and so I think every one of them have inspired me somehow.
As the Teacher of the Year, you automatically become the ambassador for education for Lakewood Park Elementary School. So what advice would you give to a new teacher?
A new teacher. I think first, you're not the only one who's feeling overwhelmed. You're not the only one who doesn't understand all the acronyms and all of the standards and everything your first year. But I think most importantly, to remember why you're there. To remember that despite all of the confusion sometimes and what can seem so overwhelming, that you're there for the kids, and that if you keep that goal in mind, you'll be okay.
So what advice would you give to parents to help them make sure that their child will be a success?
I think encouraging them to read, number one. We see that a lot in third grade, that how important that reading and that love of reading is. So I think encouraging that love of reading. I think just letting them know that they don't have to be like everybody else, that they're good just the way they are, doing their best, and respecting their teachers and listening to the things the teachers are saying. But most importantly, I think just giving their best, whatever that best is.
Ms. Young, we know to be the Teacher of the Year, that person has to be heavily involved in the total operation of the school.
Right.
So what other activities would we find Ms. Johnson involved in to help the school work?
Okay. Well, we are a Title I school, and you know, many of our students come from families that are in need. And so beyond the classroom is that sense of community. And I know that Ms. Johnson has been heavily involved in providing food for some of our families, visiting our families. I know that she does a lot of community work on the side, and that includes our children and beyond. I think working with our families, and she mentioned parent involvement, I think parents become involved when they too know that we care about them, their children, and their families. And so I think she's been an ambassador for our school in that way for sure.
Describe Ms. Johnson using 3 adjectives and tell us why those 3.
Only 3.
Only 3.
Only 3.
Only 3.
I can tell you this, dedicated, I can tell you enthusiastic for learning, and I'm going to say knowledgeable. And when I say knowledgeable, I don't just mean content knowledge. I mean she knows her kids. She knows what they like, what they dislike, she knows what motivates, and she knows what inspires. And so she has that deep knowledge that I think you know, is so necessary for a teacher to have in order to get the very best out of every single student.
So Ms. Johnson, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
I think, like I said earlier, I think I fell in love my first year at Lakewood Park. That's when I think that's when it got my heart. That's when it grabbed my heart, was there. I love the kids that we have there.
So you're teaching third grade, but how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
College is a long ways away, but we talk about it a lot in my classroom because it's something they need to start thinking about early. I also think it's important to teach those kids that college may not be the option for all of them. I think that what's important, and I think the way I'm preparing them, is that they have the knowledge and the skills that they're going to need, but that they also know that whatever they choose to do is important. Whether it's college, whether it's a trade, whatever they do is meaningful in the world. And I think that's how I am helping them get to that place, is to know that their place in life is important, whatever it is.
We know that the Teacher of the Year from the individual schools will go on to compete for and possibly win the coveted title of Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools. Again, you will become the ambassador. In that role, you would have an opportunity to speak to the superintendent, to lawmakers, to organizations. What would be your message?
My message, I think, would be that every child that walks through the doors holds some purpose and place in our future. And I think they hold that place and purpose regardless of their test scores, regardless of what they're capable of at that moment, that every single student is valuable to all of us, to our world, to everything that's coming.
You mentioned that you worked as a director for Boys and Girls Club for some 16 years, and now in education, still sort of teaching. But what is it that fuels you to go do that work every day? What is it? What's your fuel, your drive?
Well, it might sound corny, but it's my love for the kids. It's my desire to see our world even better, and I think those kids are the way we get the world better. I think that's how we have a better world, is by showing our kids what they can do and what they're capable of.
Knowing that you have those options, you still chose to be an educator. So it tells me that there's something deep. So in your heart of hearts, why are you a teacher?
Because I think the kids need good people, good, genuine people who really, truly care about them when they walk through the doors. I think there's educators everywhere that feel that way. And I think we can't see it as a job. I think what drives me is that it's not a job. It's wanting to show human beings how worthy they are every day. And I think that's my drive.
Ms. Young, why is Ms. Johnson the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think because she's genuine. I think everything that you're hearing from her today and more is exactly what exemplifies her as an outstanding candidate for Teacher of the Year. It's not necessarily a canned message. What it is it's that calling, that love that comes from deep within a person. And if there is such a thing as somebody who's born a teacher, I believe that embodies who she is. When I walk into her classroom, I have to make myself leave because I get engaged as well. I think when those questions just come forth and they just engage, and I watch students who are challenged, and I listen to their discourse after she's asked those questions, I know that this person has something deep within them that makes them a very special teacher.
Ms. Johnson, when will you know that you are a success?
I think I'm already a success, but I also think there's different levels of success.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody ever really reaches as successful as they can be. I think we can all be more successful. My definition of success might be different. I think success is any time in life where the people around you know that they're loved and cared for, and that you've put your heart into what you're doing. I think that's success on some level of success.
We know that education is different. It changes constantly. But what do you think is the soul of education?
Soul of education. I think the soul of education is the desire for a better future. I think when you get down right into the core of it, it's the desire to have a better world. And we get that by teaching and showing and modeling what we want in that world.
Ms. Young, is there anything that you haven't spoken about that you want to add about your wonderful Teacher of the Year?
Well, I told you 3 adjectives is tough, right?
Correct.
I can tell you this, that I can't say that from watching her when she was part of Boys and Girls Club and the transition to her into the teaching profession, there's one thing that's been consistent all along the way, and that's her love for children, advocating for children, and then helping them to gain confidence in themselves as a person. And I saw that as Boys and Girls Club director, I see that as teacher, and I see it as leader on our campus as well.
So, Ms. Johnson, let's begin to wrap it up. So let's do 2 things. Finish this phrase for me. I believe.
I believe we need more genuine care in our world.
Last question. When you think about living and learning, all encompassing, just total life, what is it that you know for sure?
I know for sure that no matter who someone is, that they have a perfect, valuable place on this earth, and that they're here for a purpose.
Congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Lakewood Park. I loved when you talk about how it grabbed your heart, and it's evident through your conversation that you're also grabbing the hearts of those wonderful students. Ms. Young, congratulations and thank you for joining us. And thank you again for making the St. Lucie Public Schools a bigger, better, and brighter place for all of our students.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
At this time, we want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show, Bridget Hyde, who's the awesome Teacher of the Year over at Rivers Edge Elementary School. Welcome, Ms. Hyde.
Thank you.
She's brought along with her our great friend, Carrie Waller-Kevitz, who's the proud principal at Rivers Edge. Ms. Waller-Kevitz, welcome to the show.
How are you, Dr. Perry?
All is well. I'm perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Hyde, we are always excited about the opportunity to do the Teacher of the Year Spotlight because it, one, lets us recognize those persons that have been selected as the Teacher of the Year at their sites. But then it also gives us an opportunity to introduce those teachers to our viewers and let them know how the teachers that we're speaking with and that they're seeing represent the 2,100 plus professional educators that are in the district every day. So thank you for joining us on the Teacher of the Year Spotlight, and congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year.
Thanks, and thanks for having us.
So just in case there's somebody that's viewing that does not know who the wonderful Miss Bridget Hyde is, give us a little bit about your background.
My name's Bridget Hyde. I teach 3rd grade at Rivers Edge Elementary, the best school ever. Just going to put that out there.
Okay, the best school ever.
I've been at Rivers Edge for 3 years now teaching 3rd grade and absolutely love it. I actually teach all subjects, so it's not just one. I get to dabble in all of it.
So what's your favorite part about teaching?
Ooh, just one?
Well,
I like the light bulb effect that the kids have when they learn something new, and you kind of see when they get it, and it's like a circuit kind of connecting. It's really cool because it's like the neurons are making the connections, and it's like boom.
Cool, cool.
Oh, my favorite part.
Ms. Waller-Kevitz, just in case someone does not know who the dynamic, perfect Carrie Waller-Kevitz is, introduce yourself.
I'm Carrie Waller-Kevitz, proud principal of Rivers Edge Elementary. This is my 5th year as the principal of Rivers Edge, and like Bridget, just think it is the most amazing school in St. Lucie County, probably in the whole state of Florida.
Wow, wow, okay. So, Ms. Hyde, let's talk about teaching every day. What would happen if I walked into your 3rd grade classroom tomorrow? What would I see?
If it was reading, you'd probably see a lot of the kids interacting, doing a lot of the cooperative learning, lots of reciprocal teaching. It's one of my favorite strategies to do because the kids get to interact, and it's just wonderful to see.
Well, we know that students have to be engaged to make learning complete. And we also know that these students were basically born with some form of technology in their hand. So how do you plan for and effectively use engagement and technology for instruction?
Well, usually during reading, so one of the things I do is every day there's a reciprocal teaching question, which requires the children to buddy up with a partner, and they have to partner read. So they would take turns reading and then summarizing. And then after that, they would reciprocal teach a question with a team of 4 to 5 students where everyone has a role. And then sometimes we'll use plickers where they use the cards to vote on which question they choose, or we'll grab the laptops and they'll go in and use Kahoots, which is another app where they go in and they vote, but they don't know which team's voting for which. I do, and it's cool because you can see like instantly which teams got it and which teams didn't.
Have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you discover?
I think I really always have known I've wanted to be a teacher. I was very fortunate in high school to, in my senior year, to have an internship where I was able to go into a kindergarten classroom in the morning for 3 hours and work with a kindergarten teacher. So it really opened my eyes to the education world.
So can you say that you can point back to a teacher or teachers that inspired you to become a teacher?
Well, the first one would have probably been my 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Cox. I loved her. She used to do handstands and play kickball with us every single day. I do have my 4th grade teacher too. He's actually still at Morningside Elementary, Mr. Graff. He's now in the media center. And he would do hands-on science projects with us. But the engagement was amazing. We track hurricanes and just, I don't know, it was just amazing to see.
So, Ms. Wallachevich, you get to see the magic happening every day in Ms. Hyde's 3rd grade classroom. So describe for us, what is it that you see, hear, and or feel once you visit her class?
I think there are a couple things that set Bridget out from other teachers. The first one is she has this unique ability to preview, and not just traditionally like you preview a text, but she'll like pull a group of students to her and preview like questions that are coming up, and especially for students that tend to struggle in conversations when they're doing reciprocal teaching, she's able to prepare them so when they go to have those conversations with their peers, they're equally successful as those students that maybe don't struggle as much. The second thing is, she talked about small group instruction, and she is a master at small group instruction. And she will plan and have 4 or 5 kids sitting at the table with her, and when they're at the table with her, she'll go through a lesson, and they'll go to leave, and she'll just pull a student aside and say, okay, let's just work on this, and maybe it's a phonics skill or a foundational skill that particular child doesn't have, and it's so seamless. It doesn't call anybody out. It just is a loving, nurturing, caring classroom, and Bridget is really able to bridge gaps academically, but socially, her classroom, they just really care about one another.
Ms. Hyde, as the teacher of the year for Rivers Edge Elementary, you automatically become the ambassador for education. First of all, what advice would you give to a new teacher?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions.
A lot of answers and could be given and save a lot of time if they begin to search out information.
Yeah.
So you also have to talk a lot to parents as a teacher, but also as an ambassador for education. What advice would you offer to parents to help them ensure that their child will be a success?
To also not be afraid to ask questions. I feel sometimes parents are scared to ask questions because they don't want to appear that they don't know. But just really just communicate with the teacher and just what are the needs or what do you want to talk about?
One more. As the teacher of the year at Rivers Edge, you automatically are in the running for Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools. In that role, you will have an opportunity to meet and speak with organizations, school board members, superintendent, lawmakers. What would your message be?
That the children are our future and we need to teach them to lead, because they are the ones that are going to be leading.
So, Ms. Wallachevich, we know that to be the Teacher of the Year, those persons are heavily involved in other activities outside the confines of their classroom. So what activities would we find Ms. Hyde in that help make the school work?
Anything that we do a lot of events at River's Edge, but anything that is literacy based, Miss Hyde is either spearheading or she is working with her colleagues to make sure that the event take place, but really anything that's literacy.
Okay. So Ms. Hyde, when we think about this year, is there anything new or exciting that you're going to be working on that you're working on with your students?
Well, I am in a cohort right now for technology and how to embed it more into the classroom. So that's something we've really been pushing with my kids, is just using the different apps out there, the different websites, and really diving in, because technology is at all children's fingers.
So when did you first fall in love with teaching?
When I fell, I have to count back now. Probably when I was about 18, actually. My senior year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what happened to make you know that, this is it?
There was a very challenging child in the classroom, and he was so sweet, and he just needed that little extra push. And the teacher I was working with showed me how you can just push him a little bit more to interact with others and how successful a child can really be.
Ms. Wallachevitz, describe Ms. Hyde for us using 3 adjectives and tell us why you chose those 3.
Well, I think one of them, she kind of hit on herself. Miss Hyde is extremely inquisitive. From everything with working to STEM challenges to really trying to understand why things work at the school, why things work in children's brains. She really works with her colleagues to make sure that she's answering those questions to the puzzle that help move the school forward and our children become stronger learners. She's extremely ambitious. Anything that you throw at her, she's willing to take on and make her own. And I know this one's probably a little bit overused, but I think hardworking, just down to the core, very conscientious about not only getting things done, but making sure it's done correctly and making sure, that other people are on board with her and making sure that they understand how to do that as well.
So, in 3rd grade, preparing students, of course, we know it's the early grade, but how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
I think in 2 ways. I think one is life skills, just socially. You have to go through and teach them how to interact with others, and you're also showing them that when you're at school, it's kind of like this is your job. Just like when your parents go to work, this is your job.
Yes.
This is how we behave. This is how we have to finish our tasks. This is how we have to goal set and just get from point A to point B.
Exactly.
And how we can have a big end of the year goal, but we have to take little steps to get there. And I also think that in 3rd grade, it's your foundation. It's all the foundation in elementary school that you're building them up with.
So when will you know that you are a success then?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I think that kind of changes though.
Okay.
In tense and based on whatever goal I've set for myself that year. I think taking all my little steps, but just when my students come back and they remember me and their experiences with me.
Ms. Wallachevitz, what makes Mrs. Hyde the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think it's the balance. She is truly able to manage, home life and a young child, to really supporting her colleagues and just she's really the whole package in terms of understanding what she's supposed to do and how to help others get there.
Great. So, Ms. Hyde, when we think about education, all the many different things that have happened, changes, and that are happening, what do you think is the soul of education?
So the soul of education, of course, is the children and what their needs are. So it goes down to each individual child and meeting their needs is the soul of education, because there's no 2 children that are the same.
So when you think about everything that you're involved in, everything that is mandated to occur, why are you a teacher?
Because I love it. And because I believe I can help change and make better and really children are blank canvases, and I want to help paint those canvases and make our world an amazing place. And they're our future, and I want to be a part of that.
So there has to be something that drives you, something that's your fuel to make you want to paint on those blank canvases every day and change the world and make it better. What is that and why?
It's my son. Because he's a part of this world, and I want it to be great for him as well, along with my nieces and nephews, and just any child that I meet. I want them to just thrive.
Cool. Ms. Waller-Kevitz, is there anything that you haven't shared with us about Ms. Hyde that you would want to share?
I think just that she truly has a unique way of getting all children to be successful, and I know we're not supposed to use that term so much, but you just walk in her room, it's safe, it's caring, it's warm. You know, everything that a child needs, they can get in her classroom.
So, Ms. Hyde, let's begin to wrap it up. And I'm going to give you a couple of phrases that I want you to finish. The first one says, the world needs.
The world needs more variety.
Second one, I believe
that the children are our future, and we need to mold their minds so that way they can lead one day.
Here's my last question then. When we think about life, living, as well as learning, all encompassing, what is it that you know for sure?
I know for sure that if we can just touch one child and make it better, then our world is going to be okay. Great.
Well, congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year for Rivers Edge. Ms. Waller-Kevitz, thank you for joining us on this Spotlight Show. And Ms. Hyde, we want to thank you again for taking those blank canvases and making masterpieces out of all of them as we continue to help those students live in a bigger, brighter, and better world. Thank you again and congratulations.
Thank you.
Don't worry, 74 people were picked before me in the NFL draft.
To fight childhood obesity, United Way and the NFL are helping kids play at least 60 minutes a day.
Okay, time for the team obstacle course. Yay!
What this place needs is more healthy kids. To get involved or donate, go to unitedway.org/play60.
Now I get it.
And welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight, Miss Lauren Jamboree, who's the fantastic Teacher of the Year over at Westgate Cade School. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
And joining her is the fantastic principal from Westgate Cade, Miss Christy Parker. Again, welcome to our show.
Hello, thanks.
Again, we just love having this opportunity to speak to the persons that are representing their schools as the Teacher of the Year, because it helps us celebrate teaching, learning, all that's good about education, but also it gives us an opportunity to introduce to our viewers the many talented teachers that represent the 2,100 teaching colleagues here as well. So just in case someone does not know who the fantastic Lauren Jamboree is, would you please briefly give us a little bit about your background?
Yep, I graduated from Michigan State University with a degree in elementary education. My focus is in language arts. I moved to Florida about 5 years ago, and I've been teaching here ever since.
So you moved to Florida and got some sand in your toes.
I did.
Yeah, who wants shovel sand,
Exactly.
not snow, right? Yes, yes. And Ms. Parker, would you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
I'm Miss Parker of Westgate. This is my 4th year, also with Miss Jamboree. It's our 4th year together, actually. We came to the school together.
So you brought her along with you in essence, right? Again, welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show. This highlights all of those wonderful things that's going on. So tell us, what grades do you teach, as well as subjects?
I teach just 5th grade math.
5th grade math.
Yep.
So your day, students rotate to your okay.
Yeah, we have 3 90-minute blocks.
3 90-minute blocks. Ooh. So what is it like planning for a 90-minute block with 5th grade students?
The beginning of the year is a little bit easier because we have recess built into our schedule. So the second half of the year, though, really lets us do a lot of review and get the kids ready for FSA testing. We have more time to do small group instruction after we do whole group.
Okay.
So
when we're looking at planning again for 5th grade students, especially since you're doing 3 90-minute blocks, Engagement is very important to keep those students engaged for that length of time. So how do you purposefully use and plan to use engagement in your instruction?
So engagement's something I was always very intimidated by when I started teaching, because I would see people do these classroom transformations and they had all these big projects they would do. But I found that knowing my kids and knowing what they like, knowing when to use competition, even if it's getting out dice or using Play-Doh for an activity just to change things up, keeps them engaged. We do brain breaks, things like that to just keep them on track.
Many people are talking about this idea of brain breaks. What is a brain break for our viewers?
So basically when I see my kids are getting antsy, they've been sitting for too long, sometimes it's just I give them 5 minutes on the screen, they can get up, talk to their partners, go get a drink of water, walk around the room. Sometimes we play silent ball, other little games like that.
Tell me, how do you utilize technology to help you instruct in math, 5th grade?
So I do have my own YouTube channel that I send videos home for kids and parents if they're struggling with concepts. I use Remind as a way to communicate with parents and kids all the time, letting them know when things are due and things like that. Use Learn Zillion and iReady videos to kind of help bridge the gap between what they know and what they need to know.
So if I were to walk into your 5th grade math classroom on tomorrow, what would I see?
You would see kids talking, you would see kids working. Almost everything I do involves conversation, either with a partner or in a group. I really think kids learn best when they have conversations and see things from other people's perspectives.
Ms. Parker, you have the wonderful opportunity to watch the magic happen every day in Ms. Jamboree's classroom. So when you visit, tell me, what is it that you see, hear, and feel?
I would definitely say engaging, which is funny to hear that that was her biggest fear when she first started, because she is a model classroom for engaging activities. Kids have the freedom to be able to move around and work together, and she also challenges kids to make sure that those students that are at that higher level are ready to move forward with middle school and those high advanced classes.
We also know, Ms. Parker, that to be selected the Teacher of the Year, those teachers don't just teach their classes and go home. They're involved in many of the aspects that actually make school work every day. So what else will we find Ms. Jamboree involved in?
Everything. She lives it.
How did I know, right?
She's there from anywhere from morning tutoring to after school activities. She's part of our PBIS core team. She organizes, those events with the PBIS team, school-wide events. You name it, she's involved in it. Her face is in everything we do and always helping and being supportive for the school.
And that's how you become the Teacher of the Year. Yes. Ms. Jamboree, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher, or did you discover late?
I did not know that I always wanted to be a teacher. I actually had 4 majors in college before I landed on education. I wanted to be a dentist initially, but I kept coming back to teaching. I'd always worked in church with nursery school and kids groups and babysitting, and I loved being around kids. So I had a lot of friends that were in education, and I figured I'd try it.
So 4 majors before you landed at home.
Yep.
We're so glad you came home, okay? Tell me this, when you think back throughout those 4 other major areas and now the years that you have been teaching, do you think that along the way that there might have been a teacher that inspired you, that you just kind of blocked it out? And if so, who was that teacher?
I've had a lot of teachers that have made a big impact on me, and not always necessarily with curriculum that they taught me, but building relationships with me, knowing who I was as an individual instead of just knowing me as a number in the class, pushing me to be a better person. That's what I remember about my good teachers.
So, as the Teacher of the Year for Westgate K-8, you automatically become the ambassador for education. So what advice would you give to a new teacher?
Close your door and do what you know is best for kids. Don't let all the rest of it get to you. Don't get stressed out. Remember why you're there.
As a teacher, you often have to also have conversations with parents. What advice do you give to parents to help them ensure that their child will be successful?
Make school a priority. Let them know that education is important. Ask them about their day. Ask them to see their homework. Just know what's going on.
Ms. Parker, describe Ms. Jamboree for me. Give me 3 adjectives and tell me why you chose those 3.
First, I'd say passionate. She loves kids. Ultimately, she will do anything and everything to make sure that they get what they need. She does check in, check out with students. She builds those relationships with kids. Those kids that are having trouble, she's there by their side and fighting for them. I'd say dedicated also. She's dedicated not only to her practice of teaching, but to what's best for kids. And to the standard that she needs to teach, but also working with others, being that coach to anybody that needs help. And she's super flexible when it comes to that. So people are, approach her all the time to get the assistance or ask her for anything that she might need. And then lastly, of course, again, engaging. I mean, it's a fun classroom to be in. You'd want your own child to be in that classroom because they're always learning, and her results definitely show it. And she's always been one of the top ranked in the district for that.
Engaging, dedicated, and passionate. 3 strong characteristics of a dynamic teacher. Keeping in line with having conversations with people as the ambassador for education, you will have an opportunity to speak to the superintendent, to school board members, possibly lawmakers. What would your message be to them?
Do what's best for kids. I think a lot of times with everything else going on, that message kind of gets lost. Talk to teachers, ask them what they need, ask them what their kids need.
Let me go back to this idea of having 4 other majors before you decided to come home, okay? When you reflect, when will you say that you first fell in love with teaching?
The first time I taught a lesson in a real classroom. I'd done classes before at that point, learning how to teach, but when I actually got up there, I was so nervous. But as soon as I started and I saw that the kids were looking at me and they were, participating, asking questions, I knew that that's what I was supposed to do.
Awesome. So how do you see yourself preparing students to be college and or career ready?
Collaboration is definitely something that I think is a really important skill, knowing how to talk to people, how to agree, how to disagree, how to get your ideas shared, knowing how to ask for help when they need help, and just keeping a growth mindset, keeping a good work ethic.
So when will you know that you are a success?
When I've made a difference.
Okay, I hope you're making a difference each and every day then. So, Ms. Parker, tell me, why do you think Ms. Jamboree is the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Ms. Jamboree is the perfect candidate because she goes over and beyond the call of duty of being a teacher. She's there every day, through the night even, for each event. If she needs to, she works with parents to work, to work through the troubles with the kids if they're struggling. She doesn't give up on kids. Those that might say, they're a problem in my classroom, she's welcoming them in. She goes over and beyond to learn new techniques. She's, opened up her doors to get classroom adoptions. She's had flexible seating. She's done every little thing, anything that's something that's new. She's always looking to improve her practice, but also making sure what's best for kids, and keep up with the trend of things and do what the kids need. So she's definitely, overall, she's a phenomenal educator. She's a phenomenal person, and she's a good friend and mentor to everyone else in the school as well.
Ms. Jamboree, when you think about your experiences and your time as a teacher, as well as a student, and all that you have learned during this time as a teacher, what would you say is the soul of education?
Teachers who are doing the right thing every day.
Teachers who are doing the right thing every day. So for teachers to do the right thing every day, there has to be something that drives them, that propels them. What's your fuel that keeps you going?
My kids. Every time that I'm tired and I think, I have to go to work, it's like, okay, yeah, I have to go to work, but I get to see my kids, and I get to be with my kids, and I get to teach my kids.
So let's change up just a little bit. Tell me, what is it that you know for sure?
There's more good in the world than there is bad.
Cool. And if we experience that good, the place where we are, school, will also be good. And we can take that, because school is all about learning. We take the good and it spreads out with everyone else. So, Ms. Parker, is there anything that you haven't shared with us that you want us to know about your fantastic Teacher of the Year?
Like she said, it's not just about educating them, but it's also about the whole kid. For example, over the holidays, we have grace packs with our school, and she just happened to be walking by and realized that some of the kids did not get their grace packs for the holidays. She was the first person, let's get the addresses, let's deliver them. I will hand deliver whatever we need to do to make sure every kid has everything while they're away from us, so that we can make sure that they're okay. So it's not just about the education and in school part of it, but it's also the whole child and what they do outside of school as well, that she's taking care of.
So, Ms. Parker, since Grace Packs is so big and since your Teacher of the Year is involved in it, explain to our viewers what Grace Packs is.
Grace Packs is a program for students that may need some extra support with some food at home or things like that. So we pack school bags each week, and Fridays they get to take home a school bag with food for the weekend to make sure that they have something to eat throughout the weekend, and then over the holidays we prepare and work with our PTO to prepare large boxes so they always, don't go hungry.
Always making sure our students are taken care of. Thank you for participating in that. So, Ms. Jamboree, let's get down to the last couple of questions, okay? Think about everything that you've experienced, all that you've been through, all that you've learned, and tell us, why are you a teacher?
I really just feel like this is what I was meant to do. I'm the happiest when I'm in front of my kids and with my kids, and I feel like I'm making a difference.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs
more leaders.
More leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Miss Lauren Jamboree. She's the Fantastic Teacher of the Year over at Westgate K-8. She brought along with her awesome principal, Miss Christy Parker. And Miss Jamboree, congratulations. Continue to make a difference with our students.
Thank you.
What if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
And we have the privilege of welcoming to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show, Miss Selena Reeves, who's the awesome Teacher of the Year over at St. Lucie Elementary School. Welcome.
Hello.
Glad to have you here with us today. She's brought along with her the wonderful Dr. Michelle Harrington, who is the fantastic principal at St. Lucie. Doc, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It is indeed a pleasure for us to have this opportunity to speak with you, Ms. Reeves. One, because it gives us an opportunity to celebrate you and congratulate you for your selection by your peers as the Teacher of the Year. But it also gives us a chance to introduce some of those very talented educational professionals that are working with students every day to the many viewers, because we know that you represent that teaching field of about 2,100 plus professional educators, and it's good for us to just show our community the dynamic staff that we have. But just in case everybody doesn't know who the wonderful Miss Reeves is, would you please give us a little bit about your background?
My name is Selena Reeves. This is my 5th year teaching at St. Lucie Elementary. I have a Bachelor of Elementary Education. I just finished my Master in Reading in August of 2018 as a reading specialist, and I teach kindergarten.
Oh, wow. Is it really true that everything that I ever really needed to know I learned in kindergarten?
Basically, yes.
Okay. I think I might have missed a couple of those skills, so I may have to come back to your room, Ms. Reeves. And Doc, just in case everyone does not know who the awesome Dr. Michelle Harrington is, let us know who you are.
Sure. I'm the proud principal of St. Lucie Elementary. This is my 2nd year at St. Lucie Elementary, so it's the 2nd year I've had an opportunity to work with the wonderful Mrs. Reeves. But been in St. Lucie County for my entire career, but most excited to serve at St. Lucie Elementary.
So, Ms. Reeves, if I were to walk into your classroom tomorrow, the first thing I probably will hear is crisscross applesauce, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. But what else would I see happening in that kindergarten room?
You will see my kids engaged in standard-based lesson, because I believe in engagement is the key to getting kids to learning what you want them to learn. So it can be anywhere from having them recite using little paddle boards to respond to questions, and just having a one-on-one conversation with them to see what they get a feel of what they know.
So what's different at this time of the year with kindergarten than what you saw in August?
From now, they matured a little more. You don't have so much of the tattle, because that's one thing you have to deal with when they're first beginning in kindergarten. They always want to tattle, and it's about sharing. They have to learn how to share, and their social skills improve.
I think sharing was one of those skills that I may have to come back and learn from you. It's really cool when they come to your room and they're kind of almost a baby, and you use the perfect word. They mature as the year goes along. Now, I also heard you use the word engaging. So how do you purposefully plan engagement for your instruction?
Well, I incorporate a lot of technology, because with the smaller kids, music is one of the ways to catch them into learning, especially phonics skills. So you have to get something catchy for them in order to engage them in learning their phonics, because phonics is really big to help them read. So anything with technology, we have movement, or like 4 corners, keeping a lively pace.
Keep it a lively pace. I heard you talk about technology. We know that the students that you're teaching were born with technology in their hand. So how do you purposefully still engage them through the use of technology or plan uses of technology?
For example, when we're reciting the alphabets or doing letter sounds, I have a ABC rap that we recite, or we can pull it up on the screen where they see it via YouTube, and they recite the rap, and they get up and dance and move along, and they recite it.
So, Dr. Harrington, you have the privilege, the pleasure of seeing the magic happen every day. So tell me, what do you see, hear, and or feel when you walk into Ms. Reeves' classroom?
Well, what's really interesting about Mrs. Reeves is it's not just what you see in her classroom, but it's also what you see in the hallways. But in the classroom, Mrs. Reeves's kids are always, as she said, engaged in some exciting kind of learning. But they're also, she does a really good job of teaching them how to be kind to each other, which is one of those important kindergarten skills.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the other things that is we see with Mrs. Reeves every day is the kids that seek her out in the hallway to tell her what a great day they've had. She's one of our check-in, check-outs for kids that had her over the course of the 5 years, and they're all they care about is making Mrs. Reeves proud.
So not only do we see the magic in the classrooms, it filters out into the rest of the campus as well. Let's piggyback off that, please, Doc. To be the teacher of the year, we know that those persons are heavily involved in other aspects of the total operation of our school day. So what other things would we find Ms. Reeves involved in?
You know what's really interesting is last year I got the privilege of watching Mrs. Reeves be dynamic and amazing in the classroom. And this year, in addition to being dynamic and amazing in the classroom, she's taking on a really big leadership role with her team. So in the kindergarten team, more than half the team are brand new teachers. And so in addition to being amazing in the classroom, Mrs. Reeves takes the time to make sure that her team, that they have the skills to be able to meet the needs of the kindergarten team. So it's not just about the kids in Ms. Reeves' class, it's about all of the kids in kindergarten.
Cool, cool. So Ms. Reeves, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher, or did you just later decide?
Actually, no. I started teaching later on. Before, I was in retail, but I wasn't happy. I didn't have that passion. But when I was little, I would always teach my cousins, my nieces and nephews, and it was just something about teaching that brought a light to my eye. So when I finally realized, I'm like, this is not for me. Retail is not for me. So I went ahead and finished my degree and decided to teach.
I'm glad you followed your passion and left that retail stuff alone, right?
Yes.
Cool. So when you think back to leaving retail and coming to education, do you think that there might have been a teacher or maybe teachers that inspired you?
One teacher would be my mom, because she worked at a daycare when we were small. She was a single parent of 9 kids, so
wow.
She was one amazing person. So yes. She was my first teacher. In kindergarten, I had Miss Fleming. She was an awesome kindergarten teacher. And in 7th grade, Miss Only. She was a social studies teacher, also English teacher. So, and she made me enjoy school.
Well, we want to tell Mom, as well as Miss Fleming and Miss Only, thank you for sending you our way. So, as the Teacher of the Year, you automatically become the ambassador for education over at St. Lucie Elementary. And we've already had Dr. Harrington allude to the fact. But what advice would you or do you give to new teachers?
To build a relationship with students, because the key to getting students to succeed in your classroom, you have to build that relationship with the students. Because I found out students will work for a teacher that they know genuinely care for them. So you have to build those relationships.
In addition, we know as a teacher, especially in kindergarten, there's a lot of communication with parents. What advice do you share with parents to help them ensure that their children will be successful?
I have an open door policy to where I openly communicate with their parents, letting them know that I'm available anytime they want to speak. But I also send out work that we're working on in the classroom, additional work practice, to let them know this is what they're working on, these are the skills they need, this is what your child may be lacking but need assistance in. And I also provide books for them to read, so they don't have to worry about looking for books. I provide the books for them to read to their students.
Awesome, awesome. Dr. Harrington, please describe Ms. Reeves with 3 adjectives and tell us why those 3.
Well, the first would be supportive, and that's just because I've seen a light come on this year with her leadership in supporting her team. The kindergarten team would be ineffective without Mrs. Reeves. That's how integral she is to the team. So I would say supportive, I would say caring, and it goes back to the relationships with kids in addition to building relationships with adults. The reason why we're using her for check-in, check-out is because the kids love her. And the third I would say is committed. Ms. Reeves never misses work, and she recognizes that her kids can't learn if she's not there. And so in addition to being committed to making sure she's providing them the best work possible, she shows up every day to give those kids 100%.
Supportive, caring, and committed. 3 strong characteristics, I think you'll agree, of a person that is a dynamic teacher. So, Ms. Reeves, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
It goes back to my teenage years, teaching my cousins. And it was like they wanted to work, and I provided them the work, and I knew, but because I knew how my mom struggled with being a daycare worker, I was like, I don't think I can survive being a teacher. So that's deterred me into being into retail. But then my first year here at St. Lucie Elementary, I had a rough class. But I knew I had to be determined to give them what they need. And from that day, it was just like, this is for me.
So, Mrs. Reeves, you're teaching kindergarten. So those students have 12 more years of school ahead of them. But how do you see yourself preparing them to be college and or career ready?
Giving them the foundational skills that they need first to become successful readers. Also providing them with social skills to communicate effectively with their peers inside or outside the classroom, in and out the classroom, to be ready for the world.
When will you know that you are a success?
Whenever I see gains in my students, any type of gains, I know that I'm successful.
Okay. Dr. Reeves, what makes Mrs. Reeves the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Teacher of the Year is somebody that doesn't just excel in the classroom, but they are an integral part of making sure that our school is successful. And that's exactly why Mrs. Reeves is the perfect candidate to represent St. Lucie Elementary as Teacher of the Year.
We've had an opportunity to share, but Doc, before we close, is there anything that we didn't talk about from your aspect that you want to share with our viewers about your wonderful Teacher of the Year?
You know, yes, Mrs. Reeves mentioned that she's been at St. Lucie Elementary for 5 years. St. Lucie Elementary is a unique school in that we often, we have a big teacher turnover because the needs of our students are so great that it takes just the right person to be committed to the students of St. Lucie Elementary to stay. And Mrs. Reeves has not only been there for 5 years, but Mrs. Reeves has said it's the only place she wants to work because she's committed to serving the students of Fort Pierce. And after she won Teacher of the Year, I went to her and I said, "Are you excited?" And she said, "I'm most excited because I can make my daughter proud of me."
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, and I'm sure she is duly proud. So let's wrap it up then, Mrs. Reeves, okay? Each and every day, to be that committed, to be that dedicated, to be that person that goes above and beyond, there has to be something that drives you. What's your fuel? What fuels you every day?
One is make my daughter proud, because I just feel like you have to have a positive role model to look up to. So I want to be that positive role model for her. 2 is seeing my kids learn. So knowing that I influence them, I have a major impact on their education, that drives me to make sure I'm doing the best thing that I can do in the classroom.
So finish this phrase for me. I believe
that educators should help students embrace failure. And the reason why I say failure is because you're not a failure if you don't quit. You only fail at something when you give up, when you quit. But if they're embracing their failure, they're learning from their mistake, then it make them determined to do better. So failure is not to be seen in a negative way. It could be positive.
Let me ask you to do a couple of more things for me then. Finish this phrase for me. The world needs.
The world needs more compassionate people. They have to have people that's caring, that's want to be genuine to people, and just understand where someone else is coming from.
When you think about your life experience, starting off in retail, being over at St. Lucie Elementary and having all of those wonderful students, as well as making your daughter proud, tell us, last question, what is it that you know for sure?
I know that I want to be happy. I want my kids to remember how effective I was as a teacher. But most importantly, I know for sure that we all need somebody to give us that support that we need to move forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The supportive, caring, and committed Mrs. Selena Reeves and her wonderful principal, Dr. Michelle Harrington. And as Dr. Harrington said, I'm going to end that way as well, saying to Mrs. Reeves, thank you for being just the right person, and congratulations on your selection as Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Elementary.
Thank you.
Wake the sun, tell him that I've begun to dream of things to come, and tell the trees not to look for me. I'm going to find some peace of mind. Wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun, wake the sun.
Joining us at this time is Miss Jamie Williams, who's the Dynamic Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie West K-8 School. Ms. Williams, welcome to the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, and she's brought along with her the very dynamic and proud principal of St. Lucie West K-8, Mr. Eldred Gardner. Mr. Gardner, welcome.
Thank you.
It is indeed a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak with you, Ms. Williams, because it's exciting for us to highlight the dynamic professional teaching staff that we have here in St. Lucie County. It also gives us an opportunity to personally tell you congratulations for the wonderful work that you're doing each and every day with those students at St. Lucie West K-8. I'm meeting you, and I know there may be some others that don't know much about you, so would you please give us a little about your background, please?
Sure. So I am born and raised from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I moved to St. Lucie County in 2013, and I've proudly served this county's school district for 6 years, all at St. Lucie West K-8. I started my teaching experience in 5th grade, teaching all subjects. From then, I spent the rest of my years in middle school science, where I now proudly serve 8th grade teachers in science department.
Awesome, awesome. Mr. Gardner, there may be someone that does not know who you are. Would you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Eldred Gardner, and I am the proud principal of St. Lucie West K-8 School. I am the native of St. Lucie County, graduating from Lincoln Park Academy, and I've had the distinct pleasure of starting my career at St. Lucie West K-8 School some many years ago, and having the opportunity at this time to serve as the principal of St. Lucie West K-8, and we're so glad to be with you.
So, Ms. Williams, if I were to visit your class on tomorrow, what would I see?
We're actually finishing a new unit, but when I think of my classroom, I don't think of necessarily your typical classroom. Engagement is the first thing that comes to my mind. As soon as you walk in my room, you'll be seeing students doing things you might not understand, but that's all because I built my classroom on really crazy routines to some. There's purpose in pretty much everything we do in my classroom. So from writing on the tables to jumping up randomly in the middle of class, there's just a rhyme for the reason, and it's all for engagement purposes.
Speaking about engagement, how do you purposefully plan engagement for science instruction with 8th grade middle school students?
Great question. Well, engagement starts with planning. So I keep my students in mind when I plan, but I have to do it in segments. So my students' attention may not be kept for quite long if I don't change up the routine. When I think of engagement in my room, I think of all the technology we use, all the hands-on manipulatives, different routines that keep them spiked and excited, whether it's raps, music, the momentum in my voice, the change of the atmosphere dynamic, taking them outside. However, it has to be segmented because students, their engagement changes as the period goes on.
You talked about engagement, but in mentioning engagement, you also talked about technology. Because we know that the students that you're teaching were basically born with technology in their hands, how do you purposefully plan the use of technology for your instruction?
Well, technology is here to stay, and we embrace it. And in our science room, we use technology to build a science unit that's collaborative with what's really going on in the world. So science can help you learn how to be a scientist. You can use technology, science probes with a computer to really gain access to what it would be like to be a scientist. How do scientists really do their work? When it comes to science and apps on your phone, it's an amazing blend. So we can go on things like Google Sky, or you can video something and then slow-mo it, so you can look back and really understand what's going on closer. It's a great tool for satellite images. So it goes hand in hand with the learning process, especially since our society is so technology-driven.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Gardner, you have the pleasure of seeing the magic occur every day. Tell us, what is it like when you walk into Mrs. Williams' class? What do you see, hear, and feel?
As she has already stated, one thing that you will see engagement in the classroom. She plans for processing, and she considers how it is that the students who are in front of her, how well that they will process. I like the way that she uses her interactive notebook, not as a means of just capturing notes or doing an assignment, but the students reference the notebook, the interactive notebook, in a manner that makes the notebook meaningful. So when you go into our classroom, the processing that goes on is heightened, students are engaged, and I see her more as a facilitator of the academics.
So we know that to be the teacher of the year, Mr. Gardner, that person is heavily involved in the total aspect of the operation of school, not just confined to the four walls of their classroom. What other activities would we find Ms. Williams involved in that help school work?
Miss Williams finds herself in all aspects of our campus. She serves as the science department chair, in which she's able to bring her pedagogical practices to other teachers. She also is a member of our faculty council. She serves and has served on the safety committee, the PBIS committee, and other committees that don't have an official name. She just makes herself available, and our school is the better for having her.
Ms. Williams, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher, or when did you decide?
I've always known. Ever since I was young, I loved school. School was my safety place. I loved all my teachers. I've actually never missed a day of school from kindergarten to 12th grade because school, like I said, I loved it. And I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. After school, I would go home and play school with my neighbors and cousins. We had a library in my home, so schooling was very important in my family as well. It wasn't until 5th grade when I really knew what I wanted to do. I was doing a library project on the United States of America, and we pulled out of a hat a state, and I got Florida. And then
welcome.
I knew from that moment I wanted to be a teacher in Florida.
So, when you think about always knowing that you wanted to be a teacher, along the way, do you think that there might have been someone that inspired you?
There's not one particular person who's inspired me, but many. It's funny how the little things that my teachers have said to me resound in my memory. Their encouragement and just meaningful words that they've inspired me to want to become a teacher. For example, my 3rd grade teacher wrote on my report card, and I'll never forget these words, and she definitely forgot them, but they were important to me. She wrote, "Invite me to your college graduation." And that right there showed me that this lady who, she wants me to be part of college, and she saw in me something that was not even in my mindset at that time. My 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Macheski, she was so compassionate. She smiled at everybody. She was loving. Her demeanor is what inspired me to want to be like her. 7th grade, my social studies teacher, he said, "You'll make an amazing teacher one day." And I couldn't believe it, because how did he know? How did he know that I wanted to be a teacher already? He saw something in me that I didn't even really see in myself yet. My middle school science teacher, Mr. Ruby, he's the reason why I'm a science teacher today. His passion came through everything he did, and he was just amazing. The passion in him made me a passionate science teacher today.
We're thankful for all of those many teachers and their inspirational words, but we're also thankful for that 5th grade teacher in that project where you pulled Florida, and we're so glad you came home. So, thinking about your day, what's your favorite part of teaching?
The students. I mean, my interactions with students every day, building relationships with them, seeing my passion come out of them. I love when a student comes in my room and they're kind of hesitant about doing something, or they're not sure if they really like science or the topic we're learning, and then they leave with an enthusiasm that is hard to explain. That's why I love science, and that's why teaching is so meaningful to me.
Mr. Gardner, I'm going to ask that at this time you jump in and describe Ms. Williams for us using 3 adjectives, and tell us why you chose those 3.
Well, since you limited me to 3, the 3 that I would have to say, first and foremost, and I've heard this throughout the course of this interview, she is most definitely passionate. Not only is she passionate, but she's comprehensive. And also she is supportive. And when we talk about the passion, her well-thought, deliberate planning for lessons and engagement, it illustrates her passion as the students generate and test hypotheses, and they use the various scientific methods, the methods in science to support their findings. It is amazing. Comprehensive in so much that there is nothing that is not that's left off the table. She considers all things, be it planning for all the modalities of learning, helping those students who may be visual, kinesthetic, as described the movement. You will just see them pop out of the seats doing an activity in which movement is required. Not only that, but she plans for those who may be auditory learners. You will constantly hear sounds, the sounds of her voice resonating throughout the room as she circulates the room. And when we talk about her being supportive, as department chair, she goes into others of the science department's classroom. She offers assistance as needed, and much of what she does, she just models what an excellent educator, facilitator looks like.
Passionate, comprehensive, and supportive, 3 strong characteristics of a wonderful teacher and those persons that are teachers of the year. So, as the teacher of the year, Ms. Williams, you automatically become the ambassador for education at St. Lucie West K-8 School. What advice do you give new teachers?
First and foremost, love your students. Learn as much as you can about them, build that relationship early on. But also, you're at a school with other amazing teachers. You should collaborate with them, find out what they're doing great and model it. Ask them for advice when you need to. Be self-reflective, but most importantly, make sure that you give your whole heart every single day.
In middle school, we know those are years when we also teach students about responsibility and help them gain more independence. But you still have to have conversations with parents. So what advice would you give a parent to help them ensure that their child would be a success?
Parents need to be an advocate for their child. They need to celebrate their successes, but also motivate them into a level where they've probably never been motivated before. Teachers can do so much in this school. We're here to help in any way we can. So keeping that line of communication open is great, but it all starts in the home. Encourage your students or your child to read, encourage them to do their homework, and most importantly, make sure that they're happy.
Being the teacher of the year at St. Lucie West K-8 puts you in the running to be the teacher of the year for St. Lucie Public Schools. In that role, again, you would be the ambassador for education, having an opportunity to speak to the superintendent, school board members, lawmakers. What would your message be?
I I believe that we only get one shot at what we do with our kids. They're only with us for a certain amount of time, and we really need to make the best out of that moment. So encourage teachers to be the best them they can. If they need help, offer them reasons or resources to get help. If there's something troubling them, then we need to be an advocate for them to help them get through whatever they need. But we also need to be a resource, offer them any support and resources that they need.
When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I've always been in love with teaching because I loved school. But I remember student teaching as being the most profound moment of my teaching career. And a couple weeks before my student teaching placement occurred, I experienced a very traumatic loss. And I was going through the grieving process. So much so that I wasn't even sure if I could do my student teaching. I realized that I've already been placed, so I decided to give it a try. And the moment I hit the classroom and saw those kids smiling and heard their laughter and had conversations, everything outside of school went away, and I just felt like I was home. And that's when I knew that, like, no matter what happens in my life, teaching is where I will be at home.
Mr. Gardner, what makes Ms. Williams the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Well, once again, as we have heard her speak about her students and what goes on in the classroom, her true passion, her underlining want and desire for all students to be successful is what makes her an excellent candidate.
So, as you reflect, Ms. Williams, on your career, what's the soul of education?
The students and relationship building with them is by far the soul of education.
Tell me, from being an elementary teacher to being a middle school teacher, department chair, being involved in other aspects, what fuels you?
Again, we only get one shot with these students, and it is my purpose to fuel them and to see them become adults, the adults that I want them to be, and to show them that we can love what we do and we can be great and we can build up this grit and determination to do whatever we want, and that no matter what, school is their safe zone.
So finish this phrase for me. The world needs
more passion. With passion and passionate people, we can do absolutely anything. We can build grit and determination, and we can accomplish so much more with passion. And when our students see that, or when our children see that, they too can learn how to be passionate about anything.
Final question. What do you know for sure?
I know for sure that teachers have the most important job in this world. There's no one else that can really leave resounding memories and ideas that can help support the learning process as a child to an educator to an adult. Teachers have the most important job in the world.
Ms. Williams and Mr. Gardner, first of all, thank you for coming on the Teacher of the Year Spotlight and sharing with us. I got to once again thank that 5th grade teacher for that project and making sure that you had Florida so that you could actually come home, okay? And to all those other many wonderful teachers that gave you all of those words of inspiration. And congratulations. Thank you for all that you do to make St. Lucie Public Schools a bigger, brighter, and better place for all of our students.
Okay, thank you so much.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
We want to welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight show the wonderful Kristen Landry from Treasure Coast High School. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Joining us also is the fabulous principal at Treasure Coast High School, my dear friend Susan Seal. Welcome, Ms. Seal.
Thank you, Dr. Perry.
So let's get this out of the way before we get started, okay? Because at Treasure Coast, we all know we're Titan born, Titan bred. Yes, yes. And now, We'll explain that later to our viewers as well. But Ms. Landry, there may be someone that's watching that does not know who you are. So would you please briefly give our viewers a little bit about your background?
Sure. My name is Kristen Landry, formerly Sample. I just got married.
Congratulations.
So that's a switch to some of the viewers. My first teaching job was at Treasure Coast. So I've been there for 7 years now. I'm local. I was born and raised in St. Lucie County and went
Awesome.
through our public school system as well. Went to IRSC, got my bachelor's, well, my associates and my bachelor's from Indian River in special education. And I was lucky enough to be hired by Miss Denise Rodriguez.
Tell me, what high school did you graduate from?
I went to private school, but John Carroll, but I was at Manatee and St. Lucie West when it was middle school.
All righty, all right. Who was the principal at John Carroll at the time?
I had two.
Okay.
There was Mr. Toller and Mr. Hopper.
Oh, Ben Hopper, yes. Good friend of mine, Mr.
Yeah.
Hopper. Great. Miss Hill, let's get you in here as well. Introduce yourself in case some viewers don't know who the fabulous Susan Seal is.
I'm Susan Seal, and I am the proud principal of Treasure Coast High School, and I have been there for 4 years now.
Congratulations, Miss Landry, for being selected as the Teacher of the Year at Treasure Coast High School. Now, tell us what subjects you teach.
So I'm non-instructional. I'm actually the graduation coach. So sometimes I feel like I teach all subjects in one room at the same time.
Of course you do.
So I wear a lot of hats.
So explain to our viewers why you feel that way sometimes. But before we do that, tell them what the graduation coach's job is.
So my main role is working with students who are at risk of not graduating. So that could mean below 2.0, credit deficient, and most of the time missing 1 or 2 of the state graduation required tests. So as a former reading teacher and special education teacher, I get to use a lot of that working with the students and helping them with their classes they're currently in.
And those classes could be reading, writing, math, science, social studies. That's
all of the above.
And then some.
Every once in a while get to work with some dual enrollment kids, so they keep me on my toes.
So, if we were to walk into your class today, what would we see?
You're going to see a lot. You're going to see students, some are on the computer working on Edgenuity, making up credits. Some students are working on current classwork. I have some of my kids who may be getting a little reward for bringing their grades up, some free time, maybe listening to some music. Sometimes we're looking at schools because they're trying to convince and let them see that their high school diploma is of value no matter what field they want to go into. And a lot of my students tend to want to work in mechanics, so they don't feel the need and the urgency for a diploma. They think, oh, I can just get my GED. And they don't understand the impact that makes in their future. So a lot of times we're researching, we're pulling statistics, and they're learning a lot.
What's your favorite part of your job?
Oh, my favorite part of my job is working with my students, and in any aspect, whether it's learning with them, because oftentimes I'm learning with them. I haven't taken chemistry in 12 years. I haven't gotten a physics student yet, so that's been great. But learning with them and letting them see that human side, that teachers aren't just someone in front of the classroom, that we don't know everything, because I think they learn a lot from someone learning with them and not having all the answers.
When students are credit deficient, are test deficient, and we're trying to push them to be successful because we know they can,
right?
You have to purposefully plan some type of engagement strategies to pull them along.
Right.
How do you do that?
So a lot of my students don't think that they're good at anything. They can't usually give an adjective to describe themselves that's positive because they've experienced failure for as long as they can remember. So my main job that I feel like I'm doing, especially establishing relationship, is helping them find something about themselves that's positive.
Motivator, inspirational leader.
Most of the students don't realize that they are leaders. They're just using it in the wrong way. So helping dig that out of themselves and kind of putting that to play in classrooms that I know that they do feel comfortable so that they can see that about themselves.
Ms. Seal, you get to watch the magic happen every day. So when you visit Ms. Landry's class, what is it that you see, hear, and feel?
So first of all, before I even go into her classroom, we've had conversations, either she and I or the other administrators or the counselors, that we know specifically what students are being targeted. In her office, there are computers. There will be students that are working on computers. The biggest thing I see is everyone understands the purpose of what they're doing in that room. Many times you have students who may want to leave the classroom to get out of class. Miss Landry really provides a wonderful balance because they may be out of class, but guess what? They're going to be getting their work done. She works really hard to make sure that they set goals that are achievable and then celebrate those successes. I think that's the thing that I see most clearly whenever I visit her office.
Mrs. Landry, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you discover?
So in high school, I wanted to do anything that made money. A lot like our high school students. I'm like, okay. I'm going for the job that pays all the money. And while I was in school for my associates, I was working, making good money. I was managing 20 plus employees, grown men, and I did not enjoy going to work. I didn't enjoy that business aspect. And my second choice that I kept putting off was teaching. So I declared that as my major for my bachelor's. Went into special education. One of my brothers dropped out of high school, and I do believe it was because he had a learning disorder, and it was never diagnosed. So that was very close to my heart. And when I interviewed with Ms. Rodriguez, I initially was going for a special education position, and I like to say she fooled me, but it was probably the best trick.
Thank you, Denise.
Yes, it was probably the best trick I've ever had. She put me in an intensive reading role. And I was young, I was naive, I was like, oh, intensive reading, piece of cake. And I fell in love with every single student I had, in that they were all the student I wanted to teach. I just didn't know it yet. So I'm really thankful for that switch.
So when you reflect back on that time that you spent making the money and then coming into education, and of course it causes you to reflect.
Right.
Do you think that there might have been a teacher along the way that set that fire under you or inspired you?
I don't think there was one specific teacher that I'm like, this is the person because of them I want to teach. I have at least 8 to 10 teachers that I can reflect on, that I can say, I pulled a part of them into my classroom. And they helped balance some of the things. And most of them are still teaching in St. Lucie County.
Awesome, awesome. Ms. Seal, we know that to be the teacher of the year, that person is really involved in the total aspect of the school. Besides the confines of their 4 walls, of course. So what other things would we see Ms. Landry doing to help school work?
Junior class sponsor, prom, Clash of the Titans, which she's really pulling to win this Friday, are all things she's involved in. She is a very important component of any communication that we have with parents, helping them understand the graduation requirements and understanding how they can help their students at home. When we have our meetings, monthly meetings regarding students who are at risk for attendance, behavior, or academics, I'm very pleased to say that I don't think out of our 2,800 students, there have been more than 5 students that any of us have brought forward that she's not been aware of and has not already made contact with, and that's impressive.
Ms. Landry, each year, every school selects the teacher of the year, and that person becomes their ambassador. So you are called upon to speak to many people at different times. What would you say to new teachers? What would your advice to them be?
To ask questions when you're not sure, to not wait till you're overwhelmed, and that when you're having a bad day, reflect on maybe the students who are having a bad day, because you might be having a bad day for the same reasons. To reflect on your approach, and that students, they're like us, they're emotional, and usually they're acting up for a reason. And if you can find that reason, you probably won't have behavior problems.
Again, in your role as Teacher of the Year, and of course in your specific position as the graduation coach, you are often speaking with parents. What do you say to them to help them ensure that their child will be successful?
To stay positive, keep motivating your student. Try not to let them being overwhelmed make you overwhelmed where you think that they can't do it. Because if they keep being positive, they keep putting their best foot forward, they show up every day, they're trying, they'll get there.
You may have the opportunity to share with lawmakers, school board members, the superintendent. What would your message be to them?
That our children need as much support as we can give them, and to make sure that we're always putting their best interest ahead of ours. And I think we've been doing a great job.
Ms. Seal, describe Ms. Landry for me using 3 adjectives and tell me why you chose those 3.
Data-driven, investigative, that's a very interesting word, and relationship focused. I chose those because as graduation coach, she's always focused on the data and what we need for our students to be successful. Investigative, because sometimes we do have students who tend to slip between the cracks, and there are a variety of means that she will use to track them down. We may have students that we cannot locate anywhere. She'll find out that they happen to be working at a local McDonald's, and she finds out when they're going to be at work, and she shows up.
Get some fries.
Exactly. And the third thing is relationship focused, because without a doubt, when our at-risk students graduate and I ask them who has been most influential, who do you want to thank? Miss Landry's name is the one that comes up. And their faces light up when they say, Miss Landry. And when I ask why, it's because they say, she believed in me and she made me believe I could be successful.
So, when did you first fall in love with teaching?
I first fell in love with teaching when I was little. My neighbor and I, she was a year younger, and we would torment her younger sister and my brother. We would go to school all day, and then we would go play next door, and we would make her sister and my brother be the student. And we had our workbooks, so we were 2 years older than they were, and we were making them do our work.
Your work.
Not the ones we would turn in, but, our work.
Understand.
So they still remember it to this day, and it's pretty funny.
When will you know that you are a success? You know, you're here with students that have the potential to graduate, strong potential, and from your time in reading, when will you actually know that you are a success?
I don't really put myself as successful. I do what I do because my students become successful. So every time one of them achieves their goal, their benchmark, or the end result, I feel that successful with them, and I feel like it's a joint effort. I don't feel like I can be successful without my students being successful, and I don't feel like they can be successful without me being right there with them either.
Mrs. Seal, what makes Mrs. Landry the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
Again, that focus on students being successful and her relationship focus, and the fact that she does not see every student the same way. She sees each student as a unique puzzle piece and understands that they're going to fit in differently, and I think that she views her job and her goal as in finding where they're going to fit perfectly in life to become a successful adult.
To be able to deal with so many students that have varying needs, there has to be something that pushes you. What is it that fuels you to do the work that you do every day?
The last day, that graduation, when they're coming back from walking and they tell me that they never thought they'd be standing there in a million years. Even the students that maybe takes them a little longer and they graduate in the summer, for calling. Thank yous for calling home when I wasn't there, for getting me in trouble with mom and dad when I was taking that shift at work and I shouldn't have been, for making me change my schedule. All of those thank yous that maybe weren't immediate. They weren't immediate thank yous. They were after the fact. Thank you for sticking by me. All of that that's it for me.
Finish this phrase for me then. The world needs.
The world needs our students. And whatever way that they come, they're able to be successful. And who defines success is based on the holder. And it's not defined by money. It's not defined by color, race, gender. It's defined by something intrinsic. So I feel like that's most of my job, is dealing with that intrinsic piece and to get them to see the value of themselves. So the world needs our students to believe in themselves.
Congratulations on your selection as a Teacher of the Year for Treasure Coast High School. Mrs. Seal, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the work that you do every day to make sure that St. Lucie Public Schools is a bigger, brighter, and better place for all of those students. And once again, Titan born,
Titan bread.
What if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
And joining us at this time from Village Green Environmental Studies Schools is the fantastic Mr. Andrew Copelan, who's their Teacher of the Year. Mr. Copelan, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Joining us also is the wonderful Terry Davis, who's the fantastic and proud principal at Village Green. Mr. Davis, welcome.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to be here.
It is also a privilege for me to have this opportunity to speak with you, Mr. Copelan, because it gives us the opportunity to first say congratulations on all of us about your selection, but it also gives us the chance to introduce some of the very talented professional educators to our viewers, those persons that are making life bigger, brighter, and better for our students every day. Just in case we have some viewers that don't know you, Mr. Copelan, kind of give us a little bit about your background.
22 years of teaching now. I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Grew up in a small western town, farm boy. Played all the little sports, you know, football, baseball, wrestling, all that good stuff in Oklahoma. Just moved here 4 years ago. This is my third year, I do believe, at Village Green. Oklahoma high school teacher, softball, baseball, football, wrestling, and basketball coach. And a bus driver for a while. Now I'm here doing elementary PE, and I love every day.
Awesome, awesome.
Love it.
Mrs. Davis, introduce yourself as well.
Hi, I'm Terry Davis. This is my 31st year in education. I've been a teacher, an assistant principal, and a principal, starting out in Pahokee, then Palm Beach County, moving to Royal Palm Beach High, then coming up here where I was at Centennial, Fort Pierce Central, Port St. Lucie High, and now Village Green Environmental Studies School.
Awesome. Gentlemen, again, welcome to our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show. So, elementary school PE.
Yes, sir.
If I were to walk into your room tomorrow, what would I see?
A bunch of action. Kids going everywhere. It's controlled chaos is what I like to call it.
I understand that.
There's a lot. I'd like to give the kids a lot of options. I don't like anyone sitting still. So a lot of options. So they may be bouncing the basketball like they're supposed to, or they may be dribbling between their legs. Whatever their capabilities are is what I let them do, and I go on that.
So what's your favorite part of teaching?
Honestly, probably the parent pickup and the parent drop off. I love being the first one those kids see in the morning. When I open that door and pull them out of there and say, hey, how are you? You know, call them sweetie, call them honey pie, gorgeous, you look great today, I love your shoes, or whatever it is. I love to get that smile on their face. I don't know if they had a bad day, bad morning, whatever, but I love that part of it.
But when they see you,
yeah,
it's going to be okay, right?
It's going to be okay. They're going to get a smile on them.
So we're teaching elementary school PE.
Yes, sir.
We know that we have to keep those elementary babies engaged.
Oh, yes.
How do you purposefully plan to engage your students?
The activities I choose for the age group, I would say, I try to keep things to their level, and I play with them. I just don't, throw them a ball and say, go play. I play with them. I'm having fun. There's some days I'm trying to catch my breath because I'm chasing them around so much. But you come and watch, you'll see me, chasing them. If we're playing Sharks and Minnows, their favorite game, I'm playing with them. I got the music blaring, and I'm having a great time.
So, Mr. Davis, you get to see the magic happening every day with Mr. Copeland and his wonderful elementary students. Tell us, what is it that you see, hear, and or feel when you visit the PE room?
I think that, like Coach just said, it's fun. And I think really kids need that these days. Our curriculum and testing, we put a lot of pressure on kids. And I feel that sometimes we neglect the psychomotor part. There's a educational jargon for you. But it's really important that kids know about movement, that kids know healthy eating habits. Coach brings in the bicycle program from the city of Port St. Lucie so that kids know how to ride a bike and do so safely. And the focus is on fun and healthy living. And it is so exciting to see those kids out there. And he might say controlled chaos, but he's super organized. Don't let him mislead you. Every kid's got a spot to stand on, and every kid knows what they're supposed to do within the first couple of days of school. They know how to act in his class, and they know that not participating is just not an option. And sometimes you'll see a holdout kid. I'm not going to play today. He'll sit down and cross his arms. But within a couple of minutes, you'll see how much fun the other kids and the coaches in there playing with them, how much fun they're having, and pretty soon that kid's up and participating as well.
Coach, can I come to your room?
Yes, I don't have, I'm thinking, I don't have those issues of, people setting out. He's right on the money.
Yes.
They want to play.
So, growing up in Oklahoma City, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher, or did you discover later?
I discovered that probably, I think it was my 9th grade year from my baseball coach in high school. I actually can remember, I can visualize and still see the moment when I told somebody I'm going to be a coach. That was my, I don't know, that's my defining moment, I guess. But in my 9th grade year, I remember standing, I can see the cream-colored lockers in the hallway, the whole works, and the beige carpet, and I remember saying that.
So, when we talk about planning for instruction, and even in your area, I have to ask, do you also get an opportunity to use technology for learning in your classroom?
The technology that we use at Village Green that I use the most is our app called Class Dojo. It's kind of like Facebook for parents that know what Facebook is. It allows us to take pictures, videos of activities that the kids are doing, anything. I mean, I can take a video of them playing basketball, playing soccer, doing tumbling activities, whatever it may be, and I can send it straight onto the Facebook to Dojo website, and the parents see it automatically. And within the next class, I have anywhere from 2 to 150 views of it, and they're all responding. Thanks, Coach. They're having fun. Thanks for making it fun. Oh, I get to see my baby play, whatever their comments are, but they love that. And it's so easy for me to use, even if a kid gets hurt, falls and gets a little scratch on his knee. I take a little photo of the knee and I send it to mom, just let you know, little Johnny fell and has a scratch on his knee or whatever. And they're very, very grateful for the communication through that Dojo app, which I enjoy.
Mr. Davis, we know that to be chosen, selected as the Teacher of the Year at our sites, that person is not just confined to the four walls of their classroom. They're heavily involved in the total aspect of school and the operation of school. What other activities would we see Coach involved in?
Well, he's the leader of our resource department. He leads the other teachers in that department. He coordinates with the PBIS committee, and he's on that committee, the Positive Behavioral Incentive Program at our school. Whenever we do school-wide activities, of course, we have to do a lot of organizing with the resource classes because of the resource schedule, and he leads who's going to go where and how we're going to do this so that we can get this experience in front of the kids and make it work for the school. As he said, he's the first smiling face a lot of the kids see in the morning. And no matter what happened before that moment, he establishes a positive welcome for that child for the day. Same thing in the afternoons. He's out there leading parent pickup dismissal and helping put kids in cars. Have a great day. Mini parent conference occasionally as we're waiting for the car line to go down. He's also volunteered on Saturdays with gardening activities. So he's the total package.
So, Coach,
yes, sir.
As the Teacher of the Year, you are the ambassador for education at Village Green. What advice would you offer to new teachers?
Have fun. Have fun while you do it. You have an opportunity to change. It may be the principal's day. It may be another teacher, it may be a kid coming in, but I have an opportunity every day to change somebody's life, to put a smile on their face, and I'm going to do my very best to do that.
Mr. Davis kind of mentioned that sometimes you may have a mini conference in the pickup line as well. What advice do you offer to parents to help them ensure that their child will be a success?
Well, it's a quick conference, like, hey, little Johnny wasn't quite listening today, but I know tomorrow he's going to do a lot better. I just want you to know, something like that. Well, that's a very mini conference for me. Just let the parent know that, Johnny wasn't quite on task today, but I got faith in him. He's going to do it tomorrow.
You automatically are in the running to be Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools. In that role, you'll have an opportunity to speak with our school board members, with the superintendent, with other colleagues. What would your message about education be to them?
To the other superintendent and colleagues?
Colleagues, school board members, maybe lawmakers. What would your message be to them?
Value us, I guess, would be my thing. We're giving the children of our future value by being there every day, showing up, doing our job that we're supposed to be doing. Value us also.
Mr. Davis, give me 3 adjectives to define coach and tell me why you chose those 3.
I would say caring, because when I see him interacting with students, be they students who are doing very well or students that are having challenges, his caring is visible in his actions and his words towards all students. Communicative, he mentioned the class dojo. He's probably the strongest communicator with that tool that the school has. It's a very effective way to immediately communicate with students and also to reward students for doing what's expected of them. We have what the class dojo allows you to add points, and so you can do that in addition or in lieu of giving the students manatee moolah, which they can then use for earning their way into school-wide activities. And I would say committed. Very committed professional.
So, Mr. Davis, I forgot to ask, manatee moolah?
So, we utilize behavioral science and PBIS at Village Green Environmental Studies School. And what we try and do is catch students doing the right thing and meeting our expectations. So in the morning, if they're supposed to be sitting down reading a book, and you have students that are doing what you're expected, then you would give them a manatee moolah, which is like a token fake kind of dollar. The students hang on to those. And then periodically throughout the school year, every month we have a number of activities that are available to students, and they'll cost a certain amount of manatee moolah dollars. So if there's a movie time on a designated day, it's for behavior, then students, and it costs 10 manatee moolah, then students know if I do what's expected of me, I'll easily have that 10 manatee moolah in order to be able to go to that movie that I want to see. And as I mentioned, the class dojo points allows you to do that the same way.
Yeah. So Coach, thinking back, when did you really first fall in love with teaching?
I would go back to my 8th grade year probably. That's when, I'm talking about my baseball coach in high school, my junior high coach and everything. That's when I seen him doing something that he loved and something that he was committed to do, the way he took care of the field, the way he ran practice, everything that he did, and when I was watching him, that made me go, I want to do what he does. He loves his job. I want to do that, and that's where I became a teacher.
PE teacher in elementary school, how do you see yourself preparing your students to be college and or career ready?
Ooh, that's a tough one, college and career ready. The biggest thing I would have to say is they're teaching the social skills part of PE, having them resolve their differences. I was read once where you don't have to join every argument that you've been invited to, and I kind of teach them that, and I want them to live on that aspect of it. There's better ways to solve an issue.
Mr. Davis, what makes Coach the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think he really represents what's the best about teaching, and I go back to those 3 describing words: caring, committed, and communicative. That's what parents want for their kids, and that's what kids want for their teachers.
Great. So, Coach, as we begin to kind of wind down, when you think about your time as a student and your time as a teacher and time as a teacher here as well, all encompassing, what do you think really is the soul of education?
The soul of education? Oh, man. The teacher's heart, maybe? The way that we actually show up every day, the way we appear to the kids, the way we interact with the kids. It's the teacher itself has got to be the soul of education. We set the example. We set the everything for the day, the momentum, the experience, from the time we open the car door to the time we shut the car door. It's on my shoulders what the kid's going to experience.
You talked about teachers showing up. So let me ask, because it has to be something that drives them.
Yeah.
What fuels you to show up every day?
I love my job. There's not a day that I do not want to go to work. I love every day that I go. And I think that's the key. If you love what you do, it's not a job anymore. I love going to school. I love every one of those kids. When you go see those kids and as soon as I open the door, they're, "Hi, coach," and I can barely get out the door to go to parent pickup because they're hugging me. I'm like, almost, get away from me so I can go, you know? It's one of those, I got to go work, sorry. And I'm hugging them, high-fiving them, walking through them. I mean, you kind of feel like Elvis in the building, you know?
Don't.
Exactly.
Mr. Davis, is there anything about Coach that you haven't shared that you want us to know?
I think, he's got experience at multiple levels. I think he would represent St. Lucie County exceptionally well moving forward as the Teacher of the Year for the district.
Coach, we're winding down.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, why are you really a teacher?
It's what I was called to do, no doubt. It's what I was called to do. I've tried other things. I worked in the oil field. I've done that stuff, but I was called to teach. I can relate. I've been at he mentioned I've been at the elementary level all the way to the college level. I've taught them all. And I can relate to kids. And I figured out the younger the kids, the better I relate.
Finish this phrase for me. The world needs
more love. The world needs more love, more caring people to give them just attention. If I give you attention, you and I'll be best friends in about 30 minutes. And I think that's what it needs. Love and attention.
Final question, Coach.
Yes, sir.
What do you know for sure?
I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what I do.
Thank you for joining us,
You're
Coach.
welcome, sir.
Congratulations on your selection as Teacher of the Year. Mr. Davis, thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you.
And Coach, finally, thank you for accepting that call.
Thank you, sir.
We'll see you soon.
I appreciate it.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
We want to welcome at this time the wonderful Miss Michelle Baker, who's the Dynamic Teacher of the Year at Weatherby Elementary School. Miss Baker, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
She also has with her Kimberly Kane, who's the Dynamic Proud Principal at Weatherby. Miss Kane, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Ladies, I'm so excited to have the opportunity to speak to both of you about the wonderful things that's happening in your room and at Weatherby, but also to have this opportunity to say congratulations on your selection as the Teacher of the Year.
Thank you.
In addition to that, Ms. Baker, I have to tell you that I'm excited because it gives us an opportunity to also introduce to all of our wonderful viewers the dynamic professional educators that we have in the district. Because you represent some 2,100 plus educators, and it's just good to know for our viewers to see those persons who are having a major impact on our community and our society. So I'm getting to know you, but let's let our viewers get to know you a little bit more. Give us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'm a native from Fort Pierce, St. Lucie County, and I grew up here, and I went to University of Central Florida. I got a bachelor's degree in business administration, and then I went back to school and got my master's degree in early childhood education. And I've been teaching for 13 years now.
And you said you're a native of St. Lucie County?
Yes.
And you went to school in St. Lucie Public Schools?
Not in the public schools.
Okay, all right. So it's good to know that we have some homegrown people that are still working here in the county as well. Ms. Kane, introduce yourself, please.
Well, this is my first year principal at Weatherby Elementary and first year principal in St. Lucie County. So I come with a wealth of experience and background, 20-some years in our district, and proud to be a part of Weatherby Elementary.
So, Ms. Baker, what do you teach over at Weatherby?
I teach third grade, and last year we was decided to departmentalize, and so I teach reading to 2 different classes. I also do our intervention reading, and I teach writing.
So
also.
if I were to walk into your classroom tomorrow, what would I see?
You would see a lot of love, a lot of students really excited for learning, wanting to come to school, wanting to be in there, and just to learn to be successful in the future.
So what's your favorite part of teaching?
My favorite part of teaching is when the students have that light bulb moment, where the students are they may be struggling in something, and then all of a sudden it's like they get that light bulb moment where the light bulb goes off, and they understand, and they just get so excited. So we give each other high fives, or we do a little dance, we hug each other and everything, and they just get really excited. And that's my favorite moment, is when the students get that light bulb moment.
Now we know that from kindergarten to third grade, students learn to read, and from third grade on, they're reading to learn. So because of that kind of transition time, how do you purposefully plan to engage your students in learning?
We do some activities in class where sometimes if we have like a multiple choice question, I'll have them do what we call vote with your feet, where there's a certain corner that has like a letter A, the certain corner has a B, certain corner has a C, a certain corner has a D, and then once that they all look at the question, they decide what they're going to answer by themselves, and then they'll go to that corner. And then usually if all the students get the right answer, we celebrate. We're like, that's a unanimous answer, and everybody got it right, and we celebrate, give each other high fives, pats on the back. And then of course if there's some students that maybe got the wrong answer or something, then we'll go over that. And we also do accountable talk, which is when the students have a partner and they turn to each other, and one student will go first, and then they'll talk about their answer, and then the other student will be listening, and then what I do is then I have them stop, and then I'll have them say something positive, like, that was a wonderful answer, thank you for sharing your ideas. And then then they'll switch roles, and then the other person will do the same thing, and then they'll give each other a high five, and then we'll share out a few of the answers and everything.
We also know that your students are very savvy when it comes to the use of technology. So how do you purposefully use technology for instruction?
We do PowerPoint presentations sometimes, and the students use their iReady learning on the computers as one of their centers during the reading block time.
So, Ms. Kane, you have the pleasure, the privilege to see the magic happen every day when you go into Ms. Baker's classroom. So tell us, what is it that you feel? What is it that you hear? What is it that you see?
Well, when I go into the room, I see students learning, and Miss Baker is more a facilitator in the classroom. The kids take an active role for their own learning in the classroom. There is a lot of affirmations going on in there, and not only coming from Miss Baker, but for each other. A lot of reading going on in the classroom, a lot of accountable talk, as she alluded to. Kids talking to each other about what they're reading and about what they're learning. So it's a very positive, engaging atmosphere, and kids are very comfortable taking risks and learning.
So, Ms. Baker, have you always known that you wanted to be a teacher? And if not, when did you decide?
Well, I did always know when I was a child. I always knew that I wanted to do something with children. But then I hesitated, and I went and I got a business degree, and then I worked for a few years, and then I thought about my third grade teacher myself, and she played a role. And then also one time my husband and I were taking a walk, and we were just talking, and I said something to him about I always wanted to become a teacher, and he told me I needed to follow my dreams. So I went ahead and I applied to the University of Central Florida and got into the master's program of early childhood education.
Awesome.
And I've enjoyed it every day.
Good, good, good. So, thinking back, even though you took the little detour, and we're so glad you came back, do you think that along the way there was someone that might have inspired you to become a teacher? And if so, who was that person?
Well, I think my third grade teacher, because I remember back on, when I was in third grade with her, how she was very encouraging, very positive with all of us too. And, just seeing her as being like a role model in a way, and just, I had it in the back of my mind all the time since 3rd grade that I would love, to be a teacher and everything, and just seeing how much she loved all of us too and everything just made me, think, and I just hadn't followed my dreams. I went a different path at first, but then I remembered her too, and so then I went to the right path.
Thank you. Great. Mrs. Kane, we know that the Teacher of the Year is just involved in all aspects of the school. So tell us some of those other things that we might see Mrs. Baker involved in.
Well, not only is she a classroom teacher, but she's also our team leader for 3rd grade. She is our CLP. She plans collaboratively with the other reading teachers in her grade group. She serves on our literacy committee. Just this morning we had a meeting together and planning the upcoming events for Literacy Week and getting involved in all of those aspects of literacy. We're love that her family is involved. Her mom and dad give generously to our school with donations, and so we're not only do we have Michelle, but we have her family as well that are a big part of our school.
Ms. Baker, you are automatically the ambassador for education at Weatherby. So what advice would you offer to new teachers?
I would offer to new teachers to make sure that they ask questions. And it doesn't matter what question it is, just make sure that you ask any question that you may have. Don't think that it's a silly question or it's not a purposeful question, just to make sure, and not to think that you can do this all on your own, that we're all here to help out, because we're all here for the children, we're all here for any new or even veteran teachers. If you need any help, to come to anybody to help you out.
In your role as teacher, you naturally have to communicate with parents. But in your role as Teacher of the Year, you may be called upon at a PTO meeting or a SAC meeting to say something to parents. What would you say to them to encourage them to help their child be a success?
I would encourage them to be involved with their child and to keep communication open with their individual teacher. Also, to ask any questions that they may have or concerns that they may have of, what's coming up, what's going on in the classroom, and to make sure that, their children are participating in their home, completing their homework, and just staying involved with them to make sure they're successful too.
In just a few days, we're going to interview all of the persons that have been selected as Teacher of the Year for their schools to choose the one person that will be the Teacher of the Year for St. Lucie Public Schools. Now, in that role, you'll have opportunities to have an audience with the superintendent, possibly school board members, some of our local community leaders. What would your message be to those persons as the ambassador for education?
My message would be to make sure that that my role as the ambassador is to make sure that everybody is involved and everybody to be positive and to be encouraging, and to make sure that all my students are successful and the other teachers at my school are successful too, and to be there for them if they need anything.
Ms. Kane, describe Ms. Baker for me using 3 adjectives and tell me what they are and why you chose those 3.
Okay. First one that comes to mind is compassionate. She really loves her students, and not only the ones that she has presently in the classroom, but all that have come before and will come after in the hallways and around campus. You can just see the compassion that she has for students. She's very dependable. We like that we can rely on her and depend on her for planning and being prepared and all of those things that come into play. And last but not least, probably treasure hunter. I think she does find the good in all children, not just our children, but all of the people that she works with, the teachers and parents and everybody in our family.
So as a treasure hunter, she's committed to search for all the skills, talents, and intelligences that exist in all children and youth. We believe that all children are capable of success, no exceptions. I get it, I understand. And you know what? When we have those kinds of beliefs in children, those are the persons that become Teacher of the Year. Teacher of the Year. So, let's continue. Thinking back, because we know that you decided to take a little detour before coming home some 13 years ago. When did you first fall in love with teaching?
I actually first fell in love in teaching when I was a child. But like I said before, I kind of went a different direction and everything, but I was always involved with children. And then as I got older with my nieces and nephews and everything, and I just knew by spending time with them that I definitely wanted to go into teaching. Because I wanted to be a positive role model for students that may not have positive role models in their household or even like around them.
So, as a third grade teacher, how do you see your role preparing students to be college and or career ready?
I see that to get them motivated at such a young age and is helpful for them to be successful into college or whatever career that they decide to do. And so I try to impact them every day when they're here with me to make sure that they are encouraged and give them positive and love so that they know, and encourage them all the time to make sure that they build up their self-confidence.
So your students have about 9 more years in school. When will you know that you are a success?
When the students come back to visit me. And I've had a couple of them that have graduated. Actually, one, he's in the Army, and he came back last year right before he was sent to boot camp. And then his mom came this year at during Meet the Teacher to give me his picture from him being from his military picture. And he's coming back this spring to visit, and his mom told me that he definitely wants to come and see me. So just see, and then also I have a former student who she's going to Brigham Young. And so just hearing their success, and also I have other students who've come back and just said that me being positive showed them that they can do it, and that's what made them stay in school and to do what they can do best.
Awesome. So Ms. Kane, what makes Mrs. Baker the perfect candidate for Teacher of the Year?
I think her love for students, love of what she does. We see it every day in the classroom and the energy that she gives in the classroom and towards the kids. She just really has a great love for them and wants to see them succeed.
So when you think about the work that you have to do every day, being a third grade teacher, being team leader, being involved in other aspects of the school, what is it that fuels you?
The children. They fuel me because I want to do what's best for them, and I want to make sure that I put in my best for them so I know every day that they are going to give me their best too, and I don't want them to see that if I don't give my best, then they feel like they don't have to give their best. So I give my best to them so they know what I expect to, and then they get in return, they give me their best too.
So let's wrap up. Finish this phrase for me. I believe.
I believe that positivity and encouragement is is the foundation for children to be successful in life.
Well, Ms. Baker, I know the staff at Weatherby is really excited to have you as their representative. Mrs. Kane, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations on your selection. But most of all, thank you for following your dream.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this segment of our Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show. We are so excited to bring it to you, just to introduce to you these dynamic professional educators from St. Lucie Public Schools who do everything that they possibly can to continue to make our communities better and to continue to make sure that our students have a bigger, brighter, and better life. Again, thank you for viewing the Teacher of the Year Spotlight Show here in St. Lucie Public Schools.